can see it in your eyes, lonely in the corner, waiting for somebody to come and save you from the cold of night. Easily, we've been falling in disbelief. I think I'm ready for another try, but this feels like the last time. So why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye? Quiet like the ocean, with the rumble running deep. This is how I see you, when you hide your feels from me. Why you heavy-hearted? Cut the silence, talk to me. Release your mind, get what you need. Easily, we've been falling in disbelief. I think I'm ready for another try, but this feels like the last time. So why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye?
Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. And even when it seems like there's no way out, we'll grow a little closer. Through water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same at all. Oh, back, oh, oh, back, oh, oh, back. 'Cause we're better together, better as one. 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 Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. Grow a little closer, we're water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but oh, oh, back, oh, oh, back, oh, oh, back. Cause we're better together, better as one. Better together, your pain and turn it into pleasure.
Hi everyone! In PUBG Mobile version 2.2, we'll officially release a new Battle Royale map, NUSA. NUSA is a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer tropical island. The island is bright and sunny and has beautiful beaches, rolling hills, and dense vegetation. In addition to the natural scenery, it also has many areas that have a unique style and combat characteristics. Without further ado, let's take a closer look now. As a whole, being a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer map, NUSA is the smallest map PUBG Mobile has released to date. It also has the most compact structure among all the Battle Royale maps. We can make some comparisons by looking at the data. Erangel is 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers in size, and 100 players participate in each match. This means there is an average of 1.56 players per square kilometer. In NUSA, an average of 32 players fight in a 1 square kilometer area. Conflicts are intense, and players will start shooting right after landing. In the southern part of the map is a heart-shaped island. 2 paths connect this island with the gorgeous Pink Beach. The Ferris wheel and hot air balloon are both located on Pink Beach, which highlight the romantic atmosphere of the beach. But keep in mind that the terrain of Pink Beach is rather open and has little cover within a certain area. If players want to move around Pink Beach, they can do so with the help of smoke grenades to obscure enemies' vision, or push the beach balls on the beach and use them as moving cover. But if you do so, remember to keep an eye on their durability. In short, Pink Beach is beautiful and romantic, but you must take care if you plan to spend some time there. Bouline Bay is located in the northwest part of the island, and the coast is quite low there. The cliffs on both sides have a large height difference, and players can move between them with a zip line, utilizing the advantages of high ground. Players at the top can observe where enemies are moving in the bay. Meanwhile, players in the bay need to move around covertly. There is also a cavern connected to the sea in the northern part of Bouline Bay. Players can jump there directly. The cavern extends in all directions, and players can explore this area. In addition to the natural scenery, NUSA also has many urban areas, of which the largest is Telepac Town, which is located in the southeastern part of the map. Buildings are scattered everywhere in the urban area, and close-range street fights can break out at any time. There are premium apartment buildings in Telepac Town. These buildings have elevators that can be used, which adds another dynamic to searching, attacking, and defending in the building. For example, players can set up an ambush in the elevator. By getting in and not selecting a floor, they can then give enemies a surprise when they enter to use the elevator. The rooftops of buildings in Telepac Town are also connected by zip lines, which gives players more flexibility in urban battles. If the zip line is destroyed, it can be repaired with a tactical crossbow. I believe Telepac Town will give players a unique 3D alley combat experience. If you like fast-paced battles and enjoy thrilling shootouts right after landing, you can land at the Science Center at the heart of the map. The design of the modern orbital satellite roof feels really high-tech. The Science Center has 3 floors. Each floor is spacious and contains lots of supplies, which attracts many players to loot this area. As you can imagine, very intense battles will break out between these floors. At the top of the Science Center is a rooftop with a multi-layer structure. Players can look far into the distance from here for a great visual advantage. However, they'll also be exposed as there's nowhere to hide. If you want to land directly on the rooftop, you must check if there are enemies nearby to ensure your own safety. In short, if you're confident in your close-range shooting skills, you're welcome to land at the Science Center. Like the Science Center, Flame Village is also located at the center of the map. The terrain is quite low there, and the village is surrounded by mountain slopes. There are many huts in the village, and there are many places where you can stand on the beams of the huts. Players can climb or jump onto the beams to ambush other players, but there's one thing you mustn't forget. A tactical crossbow used with firebolts can set the huts on fire. This will expose the players hiding in them. Of course, firebolts will burn and deal damage to enemies when they are hit. In addition to huts, there are also brick buildings that cannot be set on fire in Flame Village. They occupy a large area, contain plenty of supplies, and are high conflict areas. If you're confident in your shooting skills, you can choose to land at Flame Village or Science Center at the heart of the map. It'll also be convenient for moving to areas along the edge. Other than the previously mentioned areas, this island also has winding and rugged mountain paths, a shipyard where the whistle roars, a regal resort with wide and open terrain, Sunset Street, which is planted with many banana trees, Crystal Bay, which has secret rooms, and more. These are all gorgeous locales that can bring players different gaming experiences. After hearing the above introduction, I'm sure players already understand what makes NUSA so uniquely fun. Lots of supplies for fast looting. The verticality of the terrain increases the strategic depth of battles. And the 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer size makes firefights inevitable. What are you waiting for? Gather your friends and enjoy a rowdy vacation on NUSA. For more details, don't forget to follow the official PUBG mobile community. See you next time!
Hey there, fellow PUBG mobile players! Along with the version 2.2 update, we have made a series of improvements on the game's basic controls. Let's take a look at the improvements. First, improvements to the controls and display. We have increased the display priority of the wheel when the throwing wheel is activated. Now it'll be easier for players to select the items they wish to throw. In this update, a countdown will be displayed whenever the play zone is going to shrink. This way, it will be made more aware of the next play zone, and players can plan their routes more effectively. We've improved the feedback effect of marked items. Whenever you tap and hold to mark an item successfully, the feedback will be more obvious. When the player is aiming down sights, the markings within the scope have been optimized, so the sight is less obscured. When a player jumps, after respawning or deploying an emergency pickup, it's now possible to mark the battleground with light columns. After a team wins, the buttons for MVP likes and summon statue will be combined. Now players can send a like automatically whenever they summon a statue. On the results screen, we have added teammate numbers, so now players can use the number to identify each other and give likes to their favorite teammates. To make spectating more convenient for players, we have tweaked the button size on the spectating screen. This reduces the chance of tapping the button by mistake. I'm sure firearm balancing is a concerning issue for many players. In this update, we have significantly improved the burst shot of both the SKS and Mini 14 by greatly improving their handling. This will increase their stability fired consecutively and increase the damage dealt to enemies. Perhaps these two firearms will become your weapon of choice after the enhancements. For airdrop weapons, we have made some adjustments to the controls and damage dealt to better balance the airdrop weapons. In the new version, there are lots of new features worth checking out. When you acquire a firearm finish of your liking, you'll definitely want to admire it from time to time. In this update, we've added a Firearm Inspection feature. Players can now use this to admire their favorite firearm. During combat, players can tap the emote to enter first-person perspective to inspect the current active weapon. A friendly reminder, never inspect your firearm during combat, or you might overlook the enemies before you. Do keep in mind that this feature is currently only available for certain firearms, but it will be gradually rolled out to other firearms in later versions. The recommended layout feature is one of the many new features. When players customize the controls, it's now easier to apply a custom layout recommended by the system with one tap. We've also added a trunk system. Players can now make exchanges while riding vehicles. Use this feature to exchange supplies with teammates. But remember, the size of the trunk depends on the vehicle type. The visual presentation of profile cards have been improved. Players can now set their gender on their profile cards. On the results screen, we have streamlined the results process and improved on the layout, as well as the MVP results emote. On the new results screen, assists will be included in the stats. In future matches, you can try cooperating with your teammates. Even if you don't make the final strike, assists will help boost your results. We have added stationary targets to the training grounds. After firing, the damage dealt and bullet trajectory will be displayed. This helps to more closely recreate situations that players may face in matches. To make it easier for players to practice shooting, the most recently used firearms configuration will be applied by default when entering the training grounds the next time. These are the major improvements for the basic experience in version 2.2. If you want to learn more about this update's content, don't forget to follow the official PUBG mobile community. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. See you next time.
challenge. A little bit greater HP for Victor. The boosters are incredible.
Just separation could be the reason why they don't close out this game. Swaying on the top.
I give it, look in my eyes.
There's Lying X looking to swing on through on the side of it.
I got a lot on the line. This with a different approach. Wanna spend time in the boat.
close together and trips up. A good nade might find all they're looking for. Leg C, leg X.
It is time for the last 3 days here of the PUBGMOBILE Pro League Western Europe Fall 2022 season before we can finally kick off the finals and find out which teams will represent us in the European Championship. I'm Jason Kaplan, joined by Maxman and Klar's here, is looking extra fresh, extra clean here on the end. My man, you look any better, and I might have to look for a new job.
No, I'm reporting in from Istanbul here, Jason. I'm away from home, but you know what? We're making it work. It's going all right. I'm happy to be here somehow, Jason.
Well, you know who's also looking good? Myself, Jason Kaplan, and I'm doing great as well. Max, how about you?
I'm here. That's
He's here.
Yeah.
He's here.
That's all you.
And that's all that matters. You showed up on time, you didn't oversleep, and you're always dependable.
Imagine doing
Just
that.
like Monster Energy provided you energy throughout the day here, official energy drink partner here at PMPL. And Maxman, official energy drink partner for a fountain for you, a chocolate fountain.
Is that that would be? You know what? I'll take a branded one, a branded chocolate fountain. No, like you call it mountain, like Monster Fountain. That's okay. Yeah, that would be a cool product.
You should go into advertising, Max, because I believe you. And I would
just take that picture of me and just put that on like a billboard or something. I think that.
I mean, I feel like that could be messed with in quite a few different ways by graffiti artists.
Car crashes on a highway.
Just
like, what's that?
Let's get it done. If one of you out there Photoshop it, I'll send you some UC. If you know exactly what we're talking about, Photoshop it, put it on a billboard on a highway, obviously not realistically, and show me it. And I will not only pay you in UC, I'll also try to promote it over on the official social media channels. You can check them out here as PUBG Mobile Esports, and Maxman can maybe help with it as well, though he might regret bringing that up, because I know there's always some loyal people out there that are interested in doing weird and wacky stuff like that. But as I said before, we are into our final 3 days of our league stage. So to say, it is a third and final day, or 3 and final days of our third phase, which means there's a lot of points for teams to get for themselves. But let's take a look, though, where they currently stand here in this phase in our overall standings, because we do have, of course, as expected, our #1 dog with DMUERTE and #2 with MADBULLS.
Okay, like I'm not gonna lie. We're used to seeing Na'Vi, VIRTUS.PRO, MADBULLS, DMUERTE on top, especially with DMUERTE, what they've been able to do in that third phase. But TJB now, big step up in this third phase, and I think I would never see the day where they actually get himself a chicken dinner on Sanhok. So that's two things in an entire phase 3 that I did not expect from TJB. So the ascension's happening. Sure, it's a little bit late, but hey, it's looking good if they want to contest for the finals.
I mean, overall, though, DMUERTE, especially being in #1, this isn't what I expected in phase 1, if I'm honest. Looking at them throughout phase 1, seeing them in kind of joint 10th place, whilst, yes, they were joint 10th with Na'Vi at the time, we understood a lot of kind of the Na'Vi pedigree and that they will be able to bump up, right? For me, DMUERTE was a bit more of a darker horse in that regard, but man, this phase, they've looked fantastic, and we already identified the fact that they are extreme on Sanhok, and, well, the last game of the last day exemplified that.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. If you guys didn't actually catch that one, make sure you go watch it back, because that was probably one of the craziest finishes we've had here in Western Europe in, I'd say, quite a long time. Looking down the rest of the list here, you can see Game Lord 11th place, Unicorns 11th, 12th place, 4 Romanian men 16th. I think this would be one of the first times they would get into, if I'm not mistaken, our extra match on Livik at the end of the third day here. But as we look down further on in the list, you know, I don't know what to say. I don't want to make excuses for teams anymore. I don't know. I don't want to put them on blast either. But like Death Machine, you go from, was it 4th on our first week down to 18th now? Like yeah. I don't know what's going on with them in particular. Shockwave as well. You know, with Trazen on the team, I expected a lot more out of them.
Wow, what a surprise! We're seeing Death Machine and also ARB champions at the bottom. I wonder what's causing that. Maybe a weird Picardo fight happening in Miramar. I don't know. Just speculating right now. Maybe you want to change that up. But yeah, I think some teams can. No, still kickstart a little bit of a comeback. It's still 3 days of play. There's a lot of points at play here, especially if you can make it into Livik. But it's such a long tournament, right? If you arrived at this stage and still in the bottom 4, clearly something is not working. If you don't make big changes, unfortunately, you might have to miss out on the finals here.
Yeah, but at least they can look back on this as a nice learning experience for them and hopefully take it into the next season of PMPL kicking off next year. But as we are talking about the third phase here, Max, it's important to note at the end of every phase, teams determined by points will get a certain allotted amount of points for themselves. That made no sense, but you know what? We'll go with it. Because if you're in first place at the end of the phase, you get 20 points. But also, what makes this phase more in particular so crucial is we not only take that into account when it comes to the individual phase, but also overall. So if you're in first place here at the end of phase 3 and you're first place at the end of the overalls, that means you get 40 points towards the finals. That is massive for some teams and for actually any team out there. So let's check in where teams currently stand when it comes to overalls here. And Kalaris, I think there's really no surprise when we see who would be number one.
I love the fact that these teams are going to get awarded down the line, but of course across all phases with the points that they've been able to gain, MADBULLS looking fantastic so far with 697. It's awesome to see, you know, the big names from CIS coming in, like VIRTUS.PRO, like Na'Vi, showing up strong with the over 600 points, but likewise great to see teams like PIONER, who have been ultra consistent, find that 4th spot just behind them on the cusp of being able to take over those teams that you expect to be at the top.
And I think it's very interesting because, like, we know VIRTUS.PRO, Na'Vi, these two teams in particular already had a lot of international experience, right? If it's playing the championships in the past, if it's playing actually also in PMGC, right? Some of the players already play PMGC. So I think it's normal it took a little bit longer for MADBULLS, PIONER, MUERTE to reach that point because they've never played against teams outside of their region, right? This is a first time for them. And see how much they've been able to improve over the course of 3 weeks. Sorry, yeah, but I mean 3 phases, should I say. It's very impressive. So I definitely like to see if they can try and continue that heading into the championship if they qualify. Of course, it seems like that's going to be the case in how they've been performing so far. But for the first time playing outside their region, this is a really, really good first start.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And particularly interesting beyond that, Jason, to see that Unicorns of Love is actually the only previous Western Europe team that is really keeping up with these guys, because the barrier between Unicorns of Love and Gamelord is extreme at the moment.
Yeah, and that's a really good point to mention too, because well, first of all, I'm surprised to see Gamelord and Eastern Stars here on the front page. But if you think about Unicorns of Love, they really hit their stride when it came to phase 2. Now, imagine a world where they did that well in phase 1. They would be looking maybe towards joint top actually, and be the savior for Western Europe.
Or even, I mean, the first half of phase 3 right now, I mean, they're only on 80 points, I think, gained so far, kind of in 12th position, joint 12th, in fact. So we need to see a little bit more of a kick up from Unicorns of Love, and they could, in theory, be rivaling for eventually, you know, some of those top points from all phases accumulated going into the final.
Yeah, well, as we obviously mentioned with Gamelord there on the front page, we believe they for sure now should have enough points to get into PMGC if you compare both seasons like we were talking about before. Yeah. So that would be one of our representatives, but still yet to find more. And looking down the rest of the list here, remember, there is a cutoff of top 16 to get into the finals. And right now, Death Machine are currently sitting on that window, 345 points. I do wonder, the teams below them, how close they are. But I would imagine, though, Max, Death Machine with that first week performance most likely created a nice buffer.
It's so unfortunate because it was such a good start to the competition too, but now I already mentioned that Fine Picardo is happening, and we have the impression we just don't see them make into the late game anymore. They just lose players when mid-rotation, etc., especially on their drop locations, and then they just don't have an opportunity to even aim for that chicken dinner. So Miramar, sure, is one of the reasons why they've not been able to have as much success as they have in that first phase. But yeah, I think they just can't make it past the early phase, and it's just hurting them so much. And seeing how ARB also is not far behind them, if this fight keeps happening in Picardo, ARB might be able to actually leapfrog if they get, I don't know, like a team squad wipe, get all the loot in Picardo, then get a chance for a win. Yeah, things need to change for these bottom teams and those two teams in particular.
Yeah, and the thing is, it doesn't get any easier if they can turn things around right now, because they're still going to be relatively low when it comes to their final points, and they still have to close a big gap here against the likes of those top dogs that we currently did have. But you know what? We talked about the top dogs, talked about his team, so what about his individual players here? I want to check in with our top 5 players when it comes to eliminations. And we can probably already guess who number 1's going to be, because you know what, this man, you don't need to know the difference between affect and effect. All you need to know is he puts up a limbs. But the rest of the lineup is quite surprising, I'd say. Well, at least some of them are a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at Effect and Zeresh mostly. It's those two guys have been consistent every single phase, right? You're looking at all the other players. Crypto, phase 2, big step up. Tixi, phase 2, big step up. I have the impression Old Boy's also had a pretty significant step up in like all phases, but phase 2 was his biggest phase. But when you are always on top, all 3 phases back to back to back, that's why they're up there currently right now, I would say, Kalaris, and they're not moving, right? Yeah. Effect is always top of the leaderboards for his team.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, the fact that these guys have been this consistent during all of it. I will say, though, really cool to see good old King Crypto doing his thing, you know? We see it in every single comment, in every single social media post that involves him, and it's he's been a really strong force for Unicorns of Love across the board, even being able to rival the likes of Tixie and Oldboy in this region, which I think is very impressive.
I'm still a Tixie supremacy believer, and he is going to dominate at the end. Tixie is there. He's one of my favorite players of the region over there, CIS in the past, so I want to see if he can try and contest once we head into the finals.
Well, Max, knowing your predictions, I don't know if I fared too well about your assumption of him being King Tixie, or not King Tixie, but reigning supreme here. But we'll see. You still have a chance to catch up. Kind of. We'll see. Anyways, but those 5 players you saw there in our race to MVP, not only are they putting up big limbs, put damage, but they're helping their team secure a lot of extra points into the finals by getting themselves high in the rankings. So let's check in that if we went to the finals right now, where the teams would currently stand in their overall points, because this is extremely important. Having leads, having any point lead when it gets to the finals is massive. We've seen so many times now where it's just 1, 2, 5-point difference between first and second place, and not to mention getting into the European regionals. But we can see here currently who is sitting at first. That's Pioneer. Yeah,
there's a lot of extra points that have been able to be secured by the top teams. Normally at the end of these tournaments, if you're in previous seasons, right, it wouldn't be that interesting. You pretty much know who's going to make in the finals. Now, in these last 3 days, you have a pretty big opportunity to get a pretty decent lead going into the finals itself. So MADBULLS, 74 points out of 80, that is, by the way. That's an insane ratio, just showing how consistent MADBULLS has been phase after phase after phase. So yeah, if you're towards the bottom right now, your point is going to be in the next 3 days to try and close that gap, get as many points as possible, but not easy when they're the other teams on top.
Yeah, let's clarify as well really quickly on the predicted bonus side. This doesn't mean this is how many points they have in the finals. This is what we expect them to have if they continue at the pace they're at in this third and final phase. So this isn't necessarily MADBULLS 100% 74. This is what we expect them to have.
And a decent shift in those predicted numbers right now is definitely, when you look at someone like TJB, right? The fact that they, in theory, if they stay at the current state that they're at right now, would be bumping up that considerably, considering that they were far below the 10th spot at the moment, I think is potentially great for them.
Yeah, and speaking of TJB, I mean, that's a team that has massively stepped up that we've been waiting to see for over 2 phases now. And we finally got to happen here in the 3 days we've had of the third phase so far. So let's jump into their stats in particular, comparing their first 2 phases up against their third phase. And I mean, just the damage, the limbs, average points, everything.
A bump up of 400 damage average over the course of the first 2 phases, and now what's been happening in this third phase is absolutely mental for them, increasing, of course, the average limbs, placement points. Overall, this is a really good improvement. The one thing that does scare me a little bit right now is in this third phase, only GK First is really putting up the numbers for the team. When you're looking at, like, you know, Xiao, XT, and just the rest of his team, they are way lower when it comes to fragging power, when it comes to average survival time, etc. It is the GK First show currently. If the team steps up around him, and he's already been up there for quite a while, it could work out. But as you said, Kalash, the question is, can they replicate this in the second part of this phase? If so, great, that's a lot of extra points in the finals. If they fall off, and there's a chance that might happen, and finals are going to be a bit tough.
Also, when you look at phase 3 so far for TJB, 2 Sanhok games are carrying a boatload of their points coming out from it. It was the last 2 Sanhoks that they played, a first place with 14 eliminations, a second place with 18 eliminations, and then of course it wasn't stolen away from them by MUERTE, but it was taken away, the victory of them, by MUERTE, as we see here in the final moments of this with Striker in the distance. Now, that is a massive amount of points. Maybe they found their groove on Sanhok, which is always nice considering they will be playing 4 of them throughout the next 3 days as a whole, but they still need to find more consistency on the other battlegrounds, I think, it is fair to say, if they want to keep the position, hopefully, for the predictive numbers that we were looking at prior.
I have the impression on Sanhok in particular, they found their groove in terms of also their drop location. The first 2 phases, they were all over the place, and MUERTE pushed them away from Same. Now they play the Eastern Coast. They did it, I think, 2 games in a row. Good amount of success, as you said, a lot of points from those 2 Sanhoks in particular. So, I mean, say, stick to it. Other battlegrounds, sure, they can improve on it, but it seems like Sanhok, they potentially found a strat that works for them.
Yeah, and as you know, you mentioned Kalaris, like they found some sort of groove and made sure their points, majority of their points came from Sanhok. And as Max mentioned before, GK First doing the heavy lifting, but we need to see more. We need to see more of this team. Even if they get into the finals, if they continue this pace, I'm not going to call them like a real contender until other people besides GK can help.
I mean, you're right. At this point, like we've been memeing it and things like that, but they're not a CCT right now, right? They are not a championship caliber team when they're having to contend with these extreme teams up at the very top that are so consistent, that are able to take every single fight and usually come out on top against some of these teams in this lobby. So it's been a rude wake-up call for Western Europe, but it's one that they need, because if you want to be a CCT, you've got to be able to step up big.
I mean, the ultimate goal, right, is to get to PMGC and to win PMGC. And right now, you know, TJB isn't in a state to compete with the PMGC teams. They weren't even in a state before to compete against the PMWI teams, if we remember just a few weeks ago. So definitely need to see some step up out of them. But then again, we need to see a step up out of quite a few teams as well. But let's just get straight into what's coming up today here. Let's take a look at our schedule for the day and remind you guys what battlegrounds will be coming up in what order. Remember, we have 5 matches every single day, and today will be the double Erangel and the double Miramar, with only one Sanhok in the middle. And of course, the next 2 days we'll be seeing double Sanhok, with the difference between double Miramars and double Erangels as well. So this is really, I guess, like the best way to start a phase as well, or a second half of a phase. Double Erangel, double Miramar gets you really comfortable. But you know it's not comfortable? These talent quizzes. I'm not feeling comfortable about today's questions. Take a look at what it's going to be, because you know what? Max is very sensitive about things like this. Well, not the oldest part, but about height. We're not talking about Reznov. And the question is, he's the shortest, well, I guess the statement is the shortest guy on the team, but also the oldest.
I went with no.
Max, speaking about short people, Mr. 185.
Okay. 185 is okay. Do not judge me for 185. 185 is a normal height, actually above average. And I went with no because I know Icy has only been able to start playing competitive since spring of this year. He's 16, 17, so he's very young, and I think he's still growing. So I would say Icy is potentially the shortest. So no, it is not Reznov.
Well, you know what, Max? You could have just said, well, at PMWI, Jason, it's on a box.
It's not an option.
You know what? I like how you don't put other people on blast. Yeah, Clarence, what do you think?
It's all right to be short, because when you get on the airplane, Jason, my knees don't hurt. Let's put it that way, all right? But I've gone with yes, because it's a pure guess. I have no
I was expecting something. I don't know why.
You know, it's a funny thing, Clarence. I went with yes as well, because of no reason. So let's actually see what the correct answer is going to be here. I'm expecting Max to probably get the point, because he had
No! I had a theory behind it and everything. I backed my thesis. How can you? Oh my god.
Fantastic.
You go from Max said, yeah, well, you know, just started playing recently and he's young, so he probably still has room to grow, blah, blah, blah. And you go to Colaris and myself saying, yeah, we don't know.
That is it. That is it.
Just going to go in blind next time and just like, I don't know. No. Okay.
Smart.
It's okay, Max. We still love you, even if you get predictions incorrectly, because you're awesome to be around. You know, it's also awesome to be around our 2 commentators. John and Blake, we're going to take you into our first match of the day.
There we are. We are getting into game number 1. I'm joined by Blank, of course. We're going to be taking a look at the second half of the last phase of League play, Blank.
We are indeed. I'm sorry, my eyes look like I've been crying. I've just did a massive yawn, so I apologise for that. I like that Colaris is coming here looking like the cool substitute teacher at the moment as well, with that new haircut and the fresh beard trim. But yeah, heading over towards Erangel now, and you're right, we are heading into that final phase before finals itself. There's a lot of finals coming through here, and it really is the final chance for some of these teams to really step it up. And I think that when we're looking at some of the standings, there are some teams down towards the bottom where it just looks impossible at this moment in time. However, the key thing right now is, even if it's impossible for some of those teams towards the bottom to jump all the way up, other than a short few, there is still that chance for these teams to head up towards the top of the rankings. MADBULLS, VIRTUS.PRO, Na'Vi, they try and take over to MUERTE if they can't hold on to that spot in number 1 and get those additional final points, those bonus points that are going to assist you greatly when you want to try and hit out and take that number 1 spot coming through on the finals when it does come through very, very shortly.
Will be a mad dash on the overalls at this point. It's going to be really close for the bonuses going into the finals. It's all to play for. And not only that, it's qualification spots up for grabs. So we're going to be keeping an eye on those crucial teams. But I'll tell you what isn't really crucial at the moment. It seems like the MVP title might have already been decided, Blank. Effect is on a tear. This guy cannot be stopped. I'm surprised that GK First is keeping up a damage, but I think that's just from this phase.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at some of the previous games that TJB were able to have, and they were absolutely dominating. But I think a lot of that, as the desk has so aptly put it, is a lot of it is down to GK First. He is really pulling the massive weight of his team behind him with a very strong rope, I would imagine, because that team does tend to be needing to be led around quite a bit by GK First. Still doing fantastic work for the team, and TJB starting to look a lot more like a unit, like a team that can play together, but it's coming through a little bit too late. And this is how we have seen it throughout the majority of the seasons, majority of our splits. And I think Imperium, when he was casting, definitely put it a very good way, because every single week he would say to me, look, man, I still believe in TJB. I still think they're coming back. And sometimes I wouldn't agree with him, but he was tended to be quite right a lot of times, and it was too little too late a lot of the times by the time they got into gear, by the time they got into action, but they got around to it eventually, and that's happening here in phase 3.
Well, this is not a terrible time for it to happen as well, right? If you had to have a down period and then come back in a little bit stronger, it is good to come into the finals or towards the finals looking a little bit stronger. It is unfortunate that they will lack a lot of bonus points, and that might take the wind out of their sails slightly moving forwards, but they have that momentum, and that can carry you and do you wonders if you play your cards right. A couple of players not having correct cards played at the start of this game, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, they're back on the road again, though. Shockwave, they get away. They don't take too much damage. I mean, they will have to heal all those players back up. But you make a good point there in terms of the bonus points. That has shifted the dynamic of these finals around quite a bit. And, you know, speaking of TJB, it's actually a great team to talk about in that sense, because as the wise Imperium did say, they were coming back. It's going to happen eventually, and it did happen eventually. And this would be a team that come into finals, and they do some really good work, right? And they would get high on the ranking and often secure themselves a spot towards a regional, towards a championship, and that was absolutely fine. But here, because we would often say, right, it's fine for TJB, they're going to chill, they're going to relax, and then in finals, they'll bring out the big guns. That can't happen anymore because of those bonus points. If you're not consistent in the league stage, you are not going to have the greatest of finals in your favor. So it's nice that we're rewarding these consistent teams like MADBULLS, like VIRTUS.PRO, and like PIONER.
And they will be able to dine out on that for at least the first couple of days of finals, but you can't... Well, I say the first couple of days, it's not entirely that long, but it's something that you can't rest on, though, which is good news for the teams below, because it means that if you're hungry enough, you can sweep the feast, get the chicken dinners that you want, but it's going to be a little bit harder. Death Machine, currently not seemingly having the best of times overall. I mean, their first phase was a lot stronger, and they got a whole bunch of bonus points for finishing so far up, but they dropped down, finished 19th last week. They're currently in 18th position this week. It seems like this is a team that fell off fairly hard after what seemed to be a fairly solid first phase.
Yeah, it was an okay first phase, and they got a lot of their work done on Miramar. And if we go all the way back to phase 1, it was a lot of the times where they would get that circle blessed. They would have decent positions within the middle of the circle would come over towards them, then they'd have a compound, and they would run it from there. Right now, they're still locked in this horrible Picardo conflict with Arabian champions. But looking at their scores, it really is quite crazy. 229 points in phase 1. So let's just take that as a starter. 229 points in phase 1. Now on the overall leaderboard, including all of the phases, 345. So only 120 points scored over phase 2 and phase 3. It is quite horrendous, right? That is not good.
Yeah, the 126. I mean, they do still have the next half of this phase to try and add it up, but you're right, they have scored less so far in both phase 2 and phase 3 combined than in phase 1 overall. Definitely a downswing team, which is not the best. But I think we could look at the flip side and look at the rise of MUERTE, right? Like, this is a team that has absolutely risen. I mean, he's finished first phase 11th place. They moved up to 4th, and they kind of impressed us there. But this phase, they have really started to pull their thumb out. And 4 chicken dinners on the board, first place overall, 152 points. They're not playing in this game, unfortunately. We'll see them in the last 4 games of today. But they have been fragging out. They have vastly improved.
Yeah, it's really good, steady improvement between the phases, which is great to see. And I think that a lot of that confidence came through from that final game before Livik in phase 1, right? Where we saw them just go absolutely ham towards that Sanhok and pull their healer out of the circle, take down NEXUS, who they were challenging to grab that Livik game, which is really, really cool. And I think from there, they realized their strength on Sanhok and decided to just run with that. And they have been super consistent on that map as a whole, and that is working out well for them. So they continue with that streak. They look like they're getting stronger and stronger on Erangel and Miramar combined. I think it's going to be a team that some of the guys that weren't expecting them to do so well or weren't expecting to be such a contender come finals will now have to really look out for and prepare for.
Speaking of consistency, I mean, you kind of mentioned it there on certain maps. I'm going to be looking at the second half of this phase, but a lot of Pioneer, really, because they finished 3rd, 2nd. They're currently top of the tables in terms of bonus points. If you close the tables out now, it's a little bit different. But they're 8th place so far. Their gap up to 2nd place, let's say, on 140. Oh, let's talk about their gap up to 1st place. Right now, it's under 50 points. So in the second half of this phase, they need to improve 50 points over MUERTE. And with 12 games to do that, they have to break that down to an improvement of, what is that, around 4 or 5 points a game, right? Over MUERTE on average for the remainder of this phase, which is a really, really tall order. But I think that they can reasonably expect to jump up maybe and contest towards 5th, maybe 4th, if they have a good second half of this phase. And with the bonus points that they've managed to find, they're looking pretty good for these finals.
Absolutely, and I think that if we look at the way that the circle has changed over the phases, because if you're at home and you've been watching a lot of PUBG Mobile, you will realize that the way teams play the circle just changes slowly but surely. Teams will slowly come towards the center. People will start realizing the center is extremely clumped. Teams will start to slowly spread back out towards the edge of the circle. So you kind of have this motion of just in and then out and then in again, but it happens slowly over time. And I think Pioneer's been caught out by this, in which case we're now in more of an edge-centric circle in terms of all these teams, where Pioneer is not able to get those cheeky flanks in on the western side of the circle anymore, or wherever they want to come in. Usually they're often posted up with many teams around them. They're not able to play the circle how they would usually like it, which is getting a very strong position early on and then running from that. And then with a lot of the hardships we saw in the beginning of phase 3, that has also really hampered them, because I think they're a team that likes to plant the flag and then play from that position. But when the circle moves away drastically, as it has done before for them, they're not able to really push through. And now with the edge play that's coming in, they're not able to even take that central spot that guarantees them more position in the circle. If we look at them right now, they're coming into conflict with Death Machine soon, and if they can clear that from that northwest side, that'll give them a lot of space here at Erangel.
Yeah, it could open a lot of doors from them to play how they like. It's easier said than done. They're still as 4, they've got a lot of vehicles, and it's still early doors on the game. At the moment, Death Machine not really rotating towards them for now. Seems like they're more preoccupied in their compound a little bit further north. Perhaps they want to stay towards the edge for a little bit longer. Seems like they're not in a hurry to move.
I think that they maybe came down, saw Pioneer, who right now are quite visible, I would say, on that side, and just thought better of it. I think this is a team that realizes that, you know, now things do hang in the balance a little bit for them in terms of those point scorings. And teams underneath them are starting to catch up a little bit. You know, you got ARB and Team Doom have had a drastic improvement in this phase 3. Who are now starting to catch up to them. They're not quite on the heels as of yet, but they can definitely see them chasing from behind. And it's point in time for Death Machine, where they've had so many unfortunate just dropouts early in these circles. Now it's just a case of safety might be the best bet for them a lot of times. If that means moving away from a team that's found themselves into the circle a little bit sooner than them, I don't mind that. They've been caught out with 1 or 2 players going down and then slowly bleeding out as the match continues. Eastern Stars here coming up versus Shockwave, one of our OG European teams, I would say. They have got a lot better, John, but I don't think it's quite 100% yet. Not to the same caliber we saw from phase 1, but I think they are starting to fix things slowly but surely.
Shockwave at the moment with Hakone down on the front against Eastern Stars. Bleeding out fairly quickly. And not really likely that you can reposition in time for this. Trazen does have a sneaky little off angle, but that has been spotted and is currently being fought over by Keme. Seiko will have to make a really, really dangerous run to make this one work. You can see Eastern Stars popping that smoke, forcing Trazen to reposition, isolating that angle, giving them a little bit of freedom. But I don't think they're going to be able to stop the push should it come through. Unfortunately, Seiko doesn't have the confidence to go through that. They don't have the information, and they lose a player for Shockwave.
Yeah, for Eastern Stars, they didn't want to push their luck here. They've got 2 players behind currently holding, so waiting for that player to bleed out and just holding the angles there will give them a little bit more room to play with going forward. For Shockwave, as they are further in towards the circle on that northern side, for Eastern Stars right now, it's just slowly carving themselves a path into this circle itself. Soon going to see the shift, and we'll see exactly where it does go. Right now, there is a few places that would be unfortunate to head down towards. We've seen a lot of MUERTE finishes recently that swing out towards that west side, but instead, we're ready with a very hard shift down towards that southwest, in which case, MADBULLS, they've often played this coastal side, grabbed that high ground early. There's the extremely prominent compound you can see where effect and skills are playing, which gives them nice little cover towards their western side, and they can also see out all towards the teams on the east, but you can see they're all coming in thick and fast. So MADBULLS will have to figure this out quickly.
On the south side is where the most of the danger lies. Beg for mercy. Already having fallen though. Leaves that a little bit less dangerous. XTEAM yet to really find their feet in the lobby. We've seen things from them in the past that would imply potential, but it just has not been realized here in Western Europe in the PMPL. Seems like they are going to really, really struggle to launch themselves from the bottom of these tables.
Yeah, the skill level from XTEAM, I honestly wouldn't call them a terrible team at all, because the rotates tend to be quite nice. They catch teams off guard quite often with nasty little flanks and sneaky plays. However, when it comes to an all-out gunfight between players, I think that they are quite far below a lot of these other teams within the lobby. And with their rotational paths, they go through some very tough teams almost every single game.
All right, everything seemingly popping off right now as QODEX, Shockwave on the hillsides. They already lost to Coney earlier, Terminus and Trazen both down. Now it's just Seiko's sliver of HP. In the background, you've got VIRTUS.PRO trying to move past RUTHLESS eSports, so I think are taking another fight. In the meantime, it is all going on right now on this northeastern side of the next circle. The hard shift is punishing these teams, Blank.
Absolutely. A lot of these teams were prepared for a shelter finish, and there's not a lot of space here anyway. So when you're rotating through this position, you're more than likely going to hit into a fair few other teams. Potato Hill's kind of out of the cards, out of the question, because no one really wants to head up there anymore. It's on that north side. Game Lord also struggling as they're coming down from Yasnaya. We'll see exactly how they are able to rotate in.
MADBULLS holding out in their end of the deal right now. Pioneer, pretty safe and sound in a northern compound, but Team Doom under threat, under siege right now from 4 Romanian men. DPS on the staircase, this is dangerous. They will need to put a nade in here to really give them a fighting chance of repositioning at an advantage. Alawi knows that. He's going to put that one through, and it's right on the money. Perfectly executed there. Push up, get that spray. No one to back it up and refrag for Team Doom as it's just Frosty alive, hiding out in the corner. They know that it isn't a complete clean team wipe, because that wasn't a clean flush there, and Frosty, the insurgent in the building.
One of the first times we've also seen Unicorns of Love be able to really pull out some big guns in that action on the southeast side. A lot of times they'll come into the circle and it'll be a desperate push from a hard shift like that, in which case they'll lose one player and not able to quite finish out the game. Another shift up towards that northeast side will leave MADBULLS having to push through the players of VP. Luckily for them, VP lost a player on the rotate there, so will not be that hard of a competition to push through. However, they do have precedent on the circle, so MADBULLS will be looking for any kind of knock they can grab, and then after that, it will be clean pickings.
Frosty goes for a bold play through the smoke and finds one. Alawi down and out in the blue as well. No first aids for Frosty. Trying to loot his friend, but there's no first aids there either. Scrambling around for these meds. Wants to spray around the side, but Rana, will he be able to survive? Has bandages, has full boosters, but he vaults the window instead. And will go down. Disaster strikes from top. Frosty takes out 4 Romanian men.
Team Doom will only get a singular point for that play as well. So for Team Doom, who are chasing Death Machine at the moment, that is fairly unfortunate with the position that they were able to hold for a long, long while there. Luckily, 2 teams go out on that edge, which leaves things a little bit more bare for Unicorn to Love and Nexus to move in from that southeast side. TJB taking their split towards the center at the moment. So we'll see if TJB can continue the kind of performance that was showing us from the beginning of phase 1 and lead it into this one. So hopefully they can get some more bonus points on board in this phase.
VIRTUS.PRO with 3, guarding out MADBULLS. Sat on 4, top to bottom on the compound. MADBULLS will need to descend. I think VIRTUS.PRO know that. No angles being given away, not just yet. MADBULLS hesitant to make this push, but Blue Zone will crunch fairly soon.
Yeah, this is one thing that MADBULLS are extremely good at, and I think VP is also aware of this. It's probably one of the only teams that would be able to get here fast enough, so I'm assuming that VP will know of this. And with it being so central, taking these edge compounds here was intelligent, because you know the rest of the MADBULLS are going to be holding on that backside. You don't want 2 members up front, because it's very easy to crash onto 2, take them out, whilst the angles aren't covered from the rest of the team. So VP makes a very smart rotation here, and also realizes that MADBULLS, if they get the peak, if they can see them, you're more than likely going to take a knock. So Tulika just gets a little bit greedy there. I think waiting as they were doing beforehand was the better play, and now MADBULLS are going to instantly execute. This is very classic.
Res did come through for fairly quickly there. Tulika is back, looking for the heal, but there's a re-knock with skills with a Molotov around the side. And they're not really going to be able to get the spray down the staircase as well. Corker not really able to execute on that one. Old boy across the way, trying to suppress these pushes, but it's not really going that well right now. Low HP for Corker still. They move through. Skills, effect is seen through, and they push up out onto the balcony. Skills makes the dash, but Corker pushes into the side room, and now Skills needs to descend, but he's dropped out. Corker around the outside of the building, trying to give them the swivel, trying to give them the old run around, but it's not going to work. MADBULLS are on the money. Effect down, but Resable, Pioneer move past them on the northern side.
Monkey realizes he has to instantly hit that med kit because they need them at full force right now to defend versus Pioneer, who are taking shots down, but realize that MADBULLS are kind of in the rough right now. They're in the swamp. They're not leaving here anytime soon. So in the meantime, Pioneer can try and get ahead. Ruthless are in front, though, with a nice compound. The Pioneer might want to challenge, but now with that circle, Ruthless will be 100% scouting outside them. Knowing that the teams might be coming their way, this is forcing TJB to leave. XTEAM has to push their way through Arabian Champions, but this is a fantastic spot for Ruthless Esports. Nice high ground, good compounds to defend with lots of different angles, so we're going to be quite difficult now for any team to really assault them. However, we've seen many, many times Ruthless Esports just fall over to a single crash.
Pioneer having to use those vehicles as cover on that hillside. It is broad to the MADBULLS right now on their push. With everyone else looking their way, they might not be so lucky. Death Machine up the top. Mesa goes down. The push from the east from Game Lord. Potential to prove troublesome, but the northern side is far from safe. Nasa still taking punishment there. Smoke does bloom and answers towards Narvalo, but he lands those shots. Double headshot there over onto Hamodi. Knocks him fairly instantly. There is a res available very, very close by. And Pioneer are given a little bit of respite.
Yeah, great crosshair placement there from Narvalo. Gives only the tiniest peek of his body as well, but just watches that singular angle on the window that has been isolated. Instantly gets the knock on them. Now Death Machine are in a tricky spot. Akashi going down behind for Game Lord is really bad though, John.
Yeah, it's far from ideal. That is their backstop there. Points for the rear guard. Unicorns of Love might be able to exploit that, move forwards into it with the Kashi going down. That's what they're going to try and do. Crypto running on into the fight now. They're starting to engage here. Crypto spotted. Unfortunately for Unicorns, they're on the longer side of the blue zone, which means that their fight is on more of a timer than Game Lords. And they will have to move first. Eastern Stars With Bazzi down, are going to have sideswipe onto this fight as well. They've yet to move, but they are further in towards this next zone. Bazzi is resable, but they're going to need to make a run for the Eastern Stars out west. Unicorns of Love down.
Cryptide should just saddle out there, to be honest with you. There's nothing much else he can do. And I think for them, they were worried about pushing through TJB's position, seeing a lot of damage go their way. And in this case, they move up towards the north, but that little brief moment of indecision does just leave them out in the cold. Again, it's a hard shift. It's difficult to predict, difficult to follow up on. Game Lord lose Akashi, but now look down towards Eastern Stars. That's a double knock coming through.
Ooh, Bazzi almost immediately flushes his teammate as well. Gapala, in fact, goes the full Monty, and Keme soon to follow. Eastern Stars torn up in the field. Game Lord back on the deck, healing up.
Victor has to just slip away from that one. TJB have eyes on, have moved away from that compound, did a really good job down towards Nexus on that south side to hold out, but there's teams absolutely everywhere.
Modi, I mean, that was a bit bold there. Modi goes down to Pioneer. There's a knock over towards Ruthless Esports as well, which allows Pioneer themselves a little bit of time, but they do not have the circle go their way. It goes up, it keeps some of Ruthless's high top position in the next zone. This is really strong for them, and Pioneer are going to have to make this push.
MADBULLS waiting in the wings though, saw that shift and instantly moved on it. They've headed down towards that southeast side where they can watch the roads and take a little bit of a ditch, and this shack as well to play around with. 6 eliminations so far, a very, very good spot for MADBULLS, and a quick move as well whilst the teams were fighting and a few knocks went through on the elimination feed. So really, really good timing from MADBULLS to make that one happen. Nades down towards Pioneer right now, and Nano hits an absolutely nasty one over towards Fash.
Zumitsu close by, tries to put another in the same place for Nano, and I think it might do the job. No, just a little bit long, maybe the other side of the rock there. Havlik pops out another smoke. They're falling back, they're trying to play the headland, but they're worried, and rightly so. ARB descending across the way. They clap eyes on each other, but they don't want to take this engagement. Havlik trying to trade blows as they force this res on out. Zumitsu timing it through. Looks like they will be allowed to do so. Another smoke pushed forwards allows Ruthless a little bit more cover. They want this fight seemingly downhill. Sprays over towards Havlik. It will be pushed in by the zone on this position, but there's a side swipe from these two players, and there's the nade. Izumitsu is there. Nano Baby opens the door for something to happen. A close nade as well, followed up by a long. Ulysses is low on half. Pocus out wide on the left. Izumitsu pivotal on this push. Needs to win the challenge. Pocus under fire, will hit the deck. DBS in hand, waiting for these ridge lines to be passed, and Ruthless back it up to the buildings.
Some great nades there, but honestly, a lot of that is successful because of Havlik. He has angles on them, can see them through third party, so allows the rest of his team to line up the nades with the information that he's giving back. So very, very aggressive push there coming through from the guys of Pioneer to make that one happen. Now, TJB, with currently the most eliminations in the lobby, looking to take this off from Ruthless Esports.
Gonna have to try hard on that. Salazar with a DBS on the inside. Drop shot and the spin is good, and the push in from the other side is there. They lose Lin on the push, but Ruthless now have so much to deal with, and they cannot stand the test. TJB lose a player, and Pioneer now facing off against TJB instead, as the position has been usurped.
Incredibly aggressive play from TJB. Notice the fighting, and then come up on the backside, isolating the two angles. The move, but it's a nice nade for the window from Izumitsu. They just got the refresh from the bodies that they were finding from Ruthless Esports and continue to toss these ones in. GK first, extremely low as well, and that will find him just on the side of that nade. He was so low.
Now just Xiao jumping in and out through the smoke, and it's easy pickings for Izumitsu. These nades from Pioneer have been so strong. They take the high ground position, and now it's the MADBULLS that's the only threat.
For Pioneer, they had to act fast, and they do. Havlik finds Monkey as he peeks up to try and take down the remaining players from Arabian Champions. They're stuck on the other side of that road, and perhaps Pioneer can get there first, but they will have to open themselves up. 2 angles from MADBULLS if they want to head downwards.
Well, they're still going. Sure, he's only a solo, but can he outlast the team fight outside of the circle? Unlikely, and I think there was a Molotov going in, and it should...
Are you joking?
That's... I mean, that is... Wait, is he not?
It's just behind him.
Oh my goodness me. How on earth does that not tickle him? Goodness.
There's a really good Molotov as well. More shots, though, as the rest of Pioneer look to keep MADBULLS at bay. Effect moves up and leads the charge.
Forward position. Well, they cannot challenge this. Can't step up for Havlik's off angle. Actually, Effect might be trying to deal with it himself. Would they? position known. It seems like Effect knows exactly the lay of the land. This is great information for MADBULLS to have. They know this off angle. They know the solo threat. They have complete control over the information.
They were taking down Arabian Champions' position beforehand. I think for Effect, they'd love to get rid of this player early so they can start focusing on Pioneer. In the meantime, Pioneer, Havlik, I think maybe needs to start thinking about moving off towards that eastern side where the rest of this team has posted up. Huge amount of smokes now employed from MADBULLS to finish off the game. This is very, very MADBULL-esque as well, saving a lot of these smokes to disorientate and confuse the opponents that are in front of them so they can take a lot of different angles. And with 4 players, this is the exact kind of play that you need. Getting all these players into different positions that perhaps Pioneer aren't expecting this late in the game, you lose a lot of information.
Havlik needs to reposition now, and Effect will spot it out. They throw the smokes, discombobulate. Effect on the off, moving in for the side swipe. Confusion in the Pioneer camp up top, and MADBULLS will strike. Wadir eliminated in the meantime. 1 player down, but Izumitsu still out and forward. Skills by the tree. Will he have spotted it? Fash is there as well. They're using that cover to their advantage as well. Out in the grass, spotted. Last player's there. Skills will not go down either. It's 4v1 for the MADBULLS, and in the open field they challenge. Izumitsu falls, and the MADBULLS move up the hill. Pioneer swept aside.
Looks like they learned from their games on Miramar how to push those positions on the top side, dropping the smokes all over the place and being cautious of it that time, which was much, much better. Send 2 up, get the refrags, have the other 2 on off angles, and slowly but surely they just mutilated the guys from Pioneer. You have to admit though, Pioneer getting a fair way into that game with some rather bad positioning as well in a few places there, so great stuff from them to actually be able to make that one happen. And honestly, I'm very, very happy with how that game turned out, because MADBULLS from that western side, you know, they move through XTEAM so many times and are able to get into decent positions. From there, they waited it out, bided their time, and VP were just no problem to them because their executes are so clean.
I mean, they seem to just know everything about these circles as well. Their information gathering is admirable for the MADBULLS, and you'd expect nothing less from a team that has had no fewer than 4 chicken dinners per phase so far. They're trying to add to that tally now, obviously. That brings them up to 2 in total. Will they be able to get 2 more in the second half of the phase? Only time will tell, but we're going back over to the desk.
I actually had a call with Time earlier today. They told me, Jason, don't be late, but also that MADBULLS will indeed get at least 2 more chicken dinners throughout this phase. MADBULLS, I mean, our predictions were terrible, but I think that's what we get for doubting MADBULLS. But Max, to be fair, at the time when predictions to be had, it was MADBULLS up against VIRTUS.PRO in a 4-on-4, and they had to push into VP to make it more difficult.
In a fight like that, 4v4, even if they just lose a single player, their odds of a chicken dinner go down significantly, because there was a lot of 4-man teams around them, like actually inside the circle, outside of course, MADBULLS and also VP. So a single player lost, that chicken dinner not happening. But MADBULLS, doesn't matter if when it comes to macro, doesn't matter if it comes to fighting, they take them so clean and so quickly, and then they just eliminate the entire team. I think 1 player or 2 gets knocked, instantly get the res, boom, back into action, ready to move on the next circle shift. The speed at which they do things and how good the moves are themselves is just so impressive, and the reason why they're so consistent every phase here, Kalaris.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, it's not just impressive that they beat VP so handedly against them in the compound. It's the fact that, as you say, when they're making the macro decisions, they are swift and they are decisive. Even if you look at the position when they're on the far west side of a circle, and then they realize, okay, well, we know nobody else is here. The circle shifts, they instantly send through to the other side of the circle because they know no teams are going to be backfilling them. They look to try and hold teams out on the other side, take an important dip. They are so clean right now, our MADBULLS, when they're making these decisions. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just how they read the circle. They know how teams are going to answer to these circles. We had hard shift to the east and over to the west. They're like, we're just going to serve as the natural barrier over to the western side. And then no team's going to be entering from that position, also because not many teams really drop to the west of that circle. And then we're just going to slowly enter that position. We already scouted because we had that high ground elevation. We know where teams are already positioned in that late game circle. So there's no reason to wait, right? You have the information, you see where the circle's going. Boom, snap of a finger, you're already in position. You already still have 4 players alive. The chicken dinner is just not going away from you. So they know how to put their foothold on that circle to make sure that it's just not going to go against them.
I mean, Max, let's be honest. MADBULLS are the hard shift. Wherever they go, if you go into the area, you're eventually going to be eliminated. And they just made their decision. Every time we get MADBULLS, top of the leaderboards.
This is you, isn't it, Max?
Yeah, it is.
Max?
Yes.
Liked by Maxman Casts.
Oh no, you see? Oh no, I didn't think you'd see that. No. I didn't think you were gonna show that. Oh wow. Okay. But you gotta like what you create, right? So.
Yes. I made this. Thumbs up for me. Okay, cool.
I don't.
It could have been worse. He could have like secretly put in his handle somewhere,
like a semi-transparent one.
Like follow me on Instagram.
I feel exposed. What's going on there?
That's amazing.
You should feel exposed. That's so unprofessional of you. I'm just gonna keep waiting.
Please don't
silence,
make it worse.
just to make you feel worse.
We can just have a chat if you want, Max.
Yeah, sure. Okay, it's good.
Let's take a look at MADBULLS player stats though in this last match here, because the amount of limbs they had. Maybe we'll see Max Ben likes this as well when we see the graphic come up, because you know what? Who doesn't like this? As Zerich puts down 964 damage, and the limbs across the board. I mean, 4-4-3-3.
That's so good. I'm gonna give it a heart. Yes, Zerish and Effect doing really good in like the fracking duo, as always, no surprise. But Monkey in particular actually was very, very offensive. Actually, I would say on par with what Effect and Zerish would do in this game. He was really just right close to them, going for the push, trying to get that finish onto Pioneer's spot. So yeah, it goes to show even the support players that are not really going to be fragging on the level of Zerish and Effect, if they have to frag out, they can get like 3 limbs apiece. So yeah, even Zerish and Effect are not the two only main fraggers of the team. Like, they will follow up as an entire squad if needed.
All right, well, you see MADBULLS performing well. TJB still did decently well, which is your pick, Colaris. And we need to dive into their player stats to see if, again, anyone besides GK First is able to step up here, because that's the one thing we'll need to see out of TJB to push them to their next level. I mean, we'll see. There we go.
Not bad at all. Zhao, actually, we already noticed too, he's the player with the longest elimination in 399 meters coming in from the previous games. And I think we posed a question at the beginning of the day, does TJB step up on the other battlegrounds that aren't Sanhok? This is a good little start to that. They had a decent position to play with. I was cautious as to whether or not to pick them, because sometimes TJB has a tendency of not performing that well, but they had a good spot, and I liked the rotation north. Even though they got eliminated by Pioneer, I think that if they were to push up on MADBULLS' position, that would have been catastrophic. So they looked for alternate angles, and if Pioneer is not there in the force that they were, it could have been a very strong move by TJB.
Yeah, it creates a little bit of hope for the entirety of the team. We talked about GK First being there solo. We've seen another player step up in this game. Hopefully is going to translate in the other games followed by that. And I think they were just a lot more decisive and willing to create space around him. Like, they seemed a lot more aggressive, which we saw in the past they were not willing to do. So I think these are changes for the best, and they know that this is like the last few days before they make into the finals, so they can get as many points as possible, create as much of a lead as they possibly can, so they actually have a live-in chance to make in the championship. So if it's the time to step up, we saw it last season, it is now, and it seems like they're pulling the TJB special in some way.
You know, thinking about how teams have been playing things out in terms of like what they can and can't do, I feel like we haven't seen teams like, for instance, TJB, they got the zone decently well. Colaris, you picked it because the position that they had within the zone. It shifts away from them, and they have to kind of like fight an uphill battle. But it seems like, you know, MADBULLS compared to them, MADBULLS, it doesn't matter where the zone goes. They're always going to make the right decision, always get into the zone correctly, and still fight their way out of it from there. And it feels like teams haven't been able... I can't really think of another team off the top of my head that is able to just deal with hardships as well as MADBULLS has been able to.
The thing is, I'm trying to think, because none do on the level of MADBULLS in some ways.
They look so clean, even against the other CIS teams as well. They look so clean, and it's not just, again, just two players kind of ruling the roost. And we know that Zerich and Effect are doing so well in terms of the numbers, but you saw it just in this game as well. The fact that the other boys around them, they're able to hold down the fort. They are a complete, full building. It's not just the foundation. They are the full building on top of them foundations here, Jason.
And the reason I bring that up as well, by the way, is just the fact that you were talking about how Na'Vi already did exceptionally well at PMGD last year, Colaris. And now we see MADBULLS able to kind of be better than Na'Vi. I think none of us can really disagree with that statement. So the question is, like, how good they are reading rotations and rotating for themselves and putting themselves in good positions. Is this going to be the team that
we're having an interesting chat, right? And I'll talk for you, Max, as well here, because you were saying you'd love to see MADBULLS at PMGC and kind of employ these strategies and use them where they can. And I think that, as you say, the fact that CIS has already been able to claim a second place at PMGC bodes well, considering that these teams can stack up against the likes of Na'Vi here to be able to push them forward. So if they do get there, amazing, but we'll see.
Yeah, a little bit of time to get there, but they still are looking fantastic. Like an ALT, a CCT. Let's head over to J&B with John Allen and Blake.
Cheers, JJNM. We're going into game number 2. It's Miramar. Of course, we're going over to the desert. We had a classic game of PUBG Mobile from MADBULLS. They played it absolutely perfectly, I would say. I don't think they put a toe out of line, no howlers for them. We're going to be going into Miramar, seeing if they can repeat that process.
Yeah, I mean, for MADBULLS, I think it's that timing that really comes into effect a lot of times, right? Where they're able to make those moves when it feels appropriate, when there's a lot going on, when teams don't expect it. And making those moves as a team, as a unit, seems to be the really, really big thing. And then towards that end game, Effect kind of takes control of the team, and then they just follow his lead, which works out really well. And with Zerish being able to find these cheeky knocks all over the place, obviously topping the meters over there for MADBULLS in that last game, that's when things start to get really, really nice for that team as well, because a lot of those players are very, very good. Effect is very strong when it comes to, you know, making those big clutch plays. But when you start seeing Zerish stepping up as well, like, you are really struggling, because a lot of times when teams coming into those engagements, you know, if you know it's MADBULLS, you're thinking, right, we've got to watch out for Effect, we've got to watch out for those off angles. Suddenly, you know, Skills, Monkey, and Zerish are also huge contenders. Like, it's hard to deal with this team because they really are a handful.
It can be all too much. And I mean, there's a reason that these guys are so far at the top of the overalls. It's because they play like that. Unfortunately, for the rest of the teams in the lobby, they're going to have to all compete against that and see what they can eke out of this. And I think as well, you could look at Pioneer as well. I said last game, I wanted to see what they could do. They've been very, very consistent, probably the second most consistent team, I would say, after MADBULLS. And I mean, maybe VIRTUS.PRO coming through as well, although their second phase was potentially less strong, but I mean, they have kept it all up. But I think Pioneer, for me, is a team that I'm really going to continue to watch. As I said, last game, they did very, very well. It felt like they played quite nicely in those final circles. They did lose a player early, but I liked it. I liked it from Pioneer. We'll see what they can do here.
I mean, for VP, one thing that they really struggle with a lot of times is these elimination points, right? From phase 2 to phase 3, this is still becoming a bit of a problem for them, in which case these fights aren't going so well. The rotations are good and they're able to put up points where they can, but when it comes to that full-on brawl, they just don't seem as strong as we'd hope to see other teams. I mean, they're still doing very good with this, despite the playstyle being super passive sometimes. I mean, you look at just look at phase 2, for example, 152 points. Now, this is tied with a lot of good teams in the lobby. Na'Vi, only 4 more placement points with them with 156. However, 147 elimination points for Na'Vi compared to VIRTUS.PRO's 99, which is a real outlier within that top 5 bracket. And then you look over here in phase 3, 89 elimination points for MADBULLS. Now, that's an outlier in itself. 58 for MUERTE, 73 for TJB. Go down to 5th place, 61 for Na'Vi, 6th place Eastern Stars, 61. You look at 4th place VIRTUS.PRO, 98 placement points, higher than anyone else in the lobby right now, but 43 elimination points. They are really lagging when it comes to these team fights.
Do need to step it up, and maybe that's the story that we're seeing, is that a lot of these strong teams kind of maybe don't have the power in the fight, but MADBULLS just kind of just like saying, actually, you know what? Let's do both. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, most teams here are looking pretty good when it comes to being able to get the elimination points as well as the consistent placement points. It really is just VIRTUS.PRO who looks strange in this upper bracket of teams who are able to make it through each single phase and get a high placing. These elimination points will come back to bite you, though, later on, because sometimes that's all that lies between you and taking up a 3rd, a 2nd, or a 1st and jumping up. When it comes to those last games, yes, you can grab a 1st place. It's not always likely that you're able to consistently get that chicken dinner, but what you can consistently get is those elimination points. And if it's a case of, you know, you're 4 points behind, you're unsure whether you're going to get that 1st place there, you do need to really pull up those elimination points as well. And from elimination points, you get chicken dinners. And we see that with MADBULLS all the time, where they take control of these circles and are able to find some good third parties and make it happen from there. TJB, on the other hand, another great team at the moment in phase 3. 3, which I'm really liking the look of. Aggressive, and plays a very different style to most other teams in the lobby, John.
Yeah, it seems like they have really turned up the gas and try to keep that pressure on, right? I mean, we saw that in the send that they took in that last game, going up, choosing the right fight, making sure that they were in position. It was unfortunate going down to Pioneer at the end, but you can't win them all, unfortunately. And the right decisions in general earn you more points. And that at the end is really what it's all about. I mean, earn more points, you're going to win, right? So if you're making those clean decisions, those decisions that get you a higher expected value, as it was with that specific push in the last game, even when you lose, you know that you make that decision again, you might win it next time and you might earn a lot more.
Yeah, it's the taking of those positions around the circle, which is when it becomes very important to have that team fighting capability. And I think for TJB, their playstyle has remained the same throughout the entire seasons, right? Throughout most season, it's remained the same. They take aggressive splits across the entirety of the map a lot of times, aggressive splits between buildings. It's very Chinese meta type of deal when you go and watch PEL. Now, none of the other teams in this lobby really play something similar. Yes, you will see teams taking a 2-2 split sometimes when it's necessary, when you want to hold two sides of a road, when you've got two compounds there and you're comfortable to do it. But for TJB, they really do like to take up a lot of space. Now, it doesn't work out so well in Phase 1 and Phase 2, purely off the back because GK First is doing the majority of the work for that team. When you take those splits, you have to be confident in every single player. Now, I would say TJB would work a lot better if they played as just a singular unit in that Phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 and 2. You come into Phase 3 now, everyone looks like they're pulling their weight, they've pulled their socks up, and now suddenly, that playstyle that wasn't working at all in Phase 1 and Phase 2 is really starting to shine. I don't like that it took this long for them to practice it to make it work, but I now hope they stay together as a team because something's starting to click here, John.
Yeah, it's good to see. We'll see if they can overcome that bonus point deficit. At the moment, it's looking to be around 15 points over some of the top teams, which will expand as the final bonus points start to come through as well. You're probably going to be looking at about maybe losing 30 to 40 points on some of those top teams. So that is a pretty decent chunk to try and overcome. But if you're on form, as you say, it seems like it might have clicked. Can they use that? Can they earn those points back?
Really, what needs to happen going forward now is everyone on this team needs to continue having these consistent games. One thing I have noticed about TJB is that oftentimes, after they get a single fight done that looks clean, they will begin to panic when something else happens. They do have this sense of, when things haven't gone to plan or you get something a little bit shaky occurring, they do suddenly start to flounder a little bit in the games. Now, you saw that last game, in fact, on Erangel, where they pushed up on Ruthless. They have a very clean push up there, clean execution. They take down all the players from Ruthless Esports. Suddenly, there's another team in the fold, and they are running around, jumping, not really sure what to do. They get naded, and it's game over. Nice shots from Xiao there up towards Redox. Shuts that down immediately. I'd love to see that.
That's what you want to do, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what decisions you make if you just click on people, right? If you just tap your finger and send them down to the red bars. Fortunately, after the DMR buff, that one was nice and clean.
You're good to go. You're absolutely fine. I don't want to harp on too much about TJB, but there is one last thing that we...
Excuse me?
Oh my god! The tower! I think that's busted now. It looks cool. Fantastic stuff. You've created a monstrosity of a vehicle, but I don't know if it's going to go much further anymore.
Does that disable the bus as well?
I think it's ruined. Yeah, they've ruined it.
Beefed two vehicles.
Yeah, that's done.
That's impressive. It's modern art. It's sculpture.
Exactly. Sometimes
Here we see a fine example of Miramar's sculpture at work. A pickup truck on top of the party bus.
Yeah, you got Transformers in disguise there. Unfortunately, it didn't transform quite the way they wanted it to, and now is immobile. I don't know how much power it has behind it, but I think Nexus will be walking from here on out. Again, last thing I want to say about TJB, I know you guys are sick of me talking about it, but right now they are in 10th place, with 454 points. I think it would be feasible for them by the end of the phase to overtake Gamelord and take 7th place away from them. They're currently sat at 500 points. I don't think it's feasible for them to take over Unicorns of Love. That's a 70-point jump after 7th place to 6th place. But this could be a really good opportunity now for TJB at the end of the tournament to pick up some good points in terms of bonus points and really have an actual potential in the finals to happen. We were talking about that last game that, you know, because they're coming online so late, maybe they don't have enough bonus points to make it happen in those finals, but they keep playing like this, you know, there's certainly a chance for them.
One chance is all they might need, hopefully, moving forwards. Pioneer on the hillside against VIRTUS.PRO with Oversight down onto the position, taking a couple of shots. 2 players on the front for Pioneer. They have got backup as well around the way. A lot of damage sent in towards Corker's vehicle, but escapes. Maybe not unscathed, but with full health bar.
Yeah, at the moment, obviously Corker subbing in for Mir right now. It's an interesting one to happen. Now, I don't think Mir was particularly bad on the team, but I think maybe giving Corker a chance in these last moments. Slightly strange considering the amount of synergy you must have built up over those several games. I say several, but we've had many, many games so far, John. But over the few phases, it does seem weird to throw him in now.
63 games they've played together so far this tournament. That's, you're right, it is a little bit late, but maybe that's what they're looking for, a little bit of reinvigoration, some new dynamics to come through and really keep them on their toes. Sometimes it's easy to lull yourself into a false sense of synergy, and what you need is that little spark. Maybe that's what they're looking for. Na'Vi fending off against Shockwave on the northeastern side of the circle. This is near Graveyard. Just to the east of or southeast of Saint Martin. Nade over the top slows down the push. Terminus is repositioned away. Na'Vi disengage.
Yeah, just getting away from this one at the moment. It's not really worth it. They understand that there's been a few moments where getting caught on this edge side has not worked out for them. I think for Na'Vi getting closer towards the circle or ahead of teams where they can start to scout a little bit further, you can see, or we can see that they've actually sent Kitsune quite far down past Lebendita. They want to know that this area is clear before they start taking engagements. The amount of times that Na'Vi has taken a fight and then suddenly been brought low by a singular snake, it's too often to count, honestly. And I think for Na'Vi, they're getting, quite frankly, sick of it. So changing this up for them is not a bad idea whatsoever. I think, you know, taking a little bit more caution, I think that's literally the phrase I use every single time around Na'Vi, is a good thing.
Circle shifts out their way. Look at that, a northeast shift, and Na'Vi can establish control on those northeast hills if they can find the positions they're looking for. No one losing a player just yet. Team Doom dropped in with 3, so they have kept up that total on the south side. And everybody on that west edge is going to maybe struggle just a little bit. The teams moving up will probably fill in around the north side of Los Leones, and it means those teams on the west are going to have to force themselves into positions where they will be engaged with one another on the south of Picardo. It's a little wedge for them.
Just a little bit. QODEX, RUTHLESS ESPORTS spots at least one. They get the blow up on the vehicle. Not much Michu can do there. If he stands up, he gets shot. If he stays sat down, at least he gets knocked and maybe is able to brought back up again. But RUTHLESS ESPORTS, they're taking no chances here, instantly sending it in, and QODEX has to hear the rumble of the vehicles here.
Nades in hand now, MONIAN around the side. Not quite long enough on the cook there, but you just want to get him out. Put pressure on this push and slow things down. Michu naded out. QODEX trying to answer with knocks, and Ulysses will feel the brunt of it. Nades over the side. Woodson nearly gets the sideswipe onto 2, but they hit the deck. They spring for cover, and Salazar puts a nade back over towards MONIAN, who's repositioned away, and Ulysses potentially getting rest here, but no! Spotted out. Sprayed down. I don't know if that was a knock that came through, unfortunately. Salazar is going to be able to heal. Big over the hills. Look at that. They are coming straight on into this fight. They want the third party. Pocus down. Woodson wanting to put these nades in, but a little bit too short there. Puts another one. Should go a little bit longer. Sprays onto Big's position to try and suppress.
Mihi just moves up. This is aggressive from Big. You don't see this too often from this team, but you do see carelessness come through. As one of the players just go down there, Mihi drops after taking 2 eliminations off the side of Ruthless Esports. QODEX are a difficult team to come up against. They take so many off angles. They're a tricky team to play around. Maniken drops the Molotov, runs away with maybe the cover of the actual Molotov in tow, but I think that was rather bold, honestly.
Beast falls back, gets back to cover. Will look for the flush as well before Woodson can get to the tree. Really no chance that they can take that res, but the information from Woodson could prove to be invaluable. Doesn't want that in the hands of QODEX, so Beast takes that one down.
Now just Maniken remaining, but will be spotted out by Mazzaro there. 5 eliminations for Big, picking up off the back of this engagement between Ruthless Esports as well as QODEX. QODEX, again, I'll say it twice because they are a tricky team to pin down. A lot of off-angle setup, a lot of baiting plays, and I think for Ruthless Esports, they're expecting just to crash in after that first knock and then just tear apart the rest of QODEX. Unfortunately, hardly any of them were even playing there.
North shift, Take Aim Gaming on the southeast side. Probably going to be getting ahead of the curve on this rotation, but they will be moving into territory currently controlled by Na'Vi on the ridgeline. Nexus now behind them on the side swipe. They've been spotted. Toffees doesn't take a lot of damage there, just a little bit. And the shots come on through. I think that's from Na'Vi, potentially. Coming on back. No, hang on a minute. Take Aim Gaming are in the fight as well. Redox spotted, flushed. Nexus down to 3.
Yeah, a lot of these teams just suffering under the brunt of just the amount of open space that is involved. I think Na'Vi would have hoped for a slightly more south circle as all the predictions come in there. There's Trazen, though, on the off angle towards Tixi. Lin can at least try and find one. It's just Yankee now. And Shulika
on the off angle does manage to get something done. Hang on a minute. GK first takes out Lin there. 3 players alive for TJB against the 2 on the hold for VIRTUS.PRO, but the res will bring Corker back up and bring them into 3. Xiao trying to reposition. Tuluka spots it out. Micro Uzi versus UMP here. Molotov knows the position behind the boxes, puts it a little bit close towards it, but Tuluka repositions away. Actually was pretty close, but not going to cover off the corner. Tuluka swings out. Close range. It's the UMP to win out, but 3 bullets are going to be pumped on into Xiao and force the reload there. Dadaev is in, and MUERTE right up the hill with only the 1 player left standing. TJB will have to fend off around the foothills. MADBULLS fall away. They reposition out of this engagement. They know they need to take the fight forwards.
Yeah, it's MUERTE. They come in for a little bit of revenge. They actually took a huge amount of punishment there from VP, but see the fight's ongoing between VP and TJB and decide to actually come back in. This is probably one of the safer areas for them currently, but they will have to move soon. The circle is getting terribly close to them, and VP will finish off that final player in Dadaev. 3 eliminations so far for the guys from VP. TJB, though, realize that this is a lost cause and decide to just try and move into the circle with the Golden Mirado. Hopefully brings them a little bit of luck here.
Gonna have to go far and fast and through a lot of trials and tribulations to come. The party bus, anything but fun right now, and they don't gonna be celebrating Corker getting knocked there. Only the 1 player making it on through for VP, but that is still 1 player alive. Unfortunately, that's not gonna last too long as Yankee goes up in smoke. TJB in the Dorado.
Zittel obviously driving and GK first in the passenger seat. I wouldn't want anyone else in my passenger seat, to be honest with you. This guy is unbelievable. Keme takes shots from Mihi, I believe, from Big, but GK first finds the spray down on the way through. This man has been absolutely driving at home with those sprays.
Goodness me, that is really strong stuff coming through, keeping that tracking going. Very, very nice. Pioneer holding on the south side at the top of the hill against the MADBULLS push. Pioneer looking to control this one out. 3 players total as they lost Black-White earlier. Effect, though, up for the challenge. They want a rematch from last round. 4v3, but Havlet goes down early. Fash up for the fight. Effect sprays around the side, but Fash sees to it that will not go any further. Will need to get to the circle as the MADBULLS try and strike out ahead of it. But Fash is going to be slow, needs to reposition in the buggy, swings out wide. The blue zone is there, very, very close to it. The bleed out is strong, and Fash will not make it through. I think it's just Izumitsu now. MADBULLS engaged with the Eastern Stars in the meantime. With 2 of the Eastern Stars down, they're banking on the fact that Effect has fallen, but Bazzi not so lucky.
That's big as well, still taking shots. That's over towards that western side. They dipped out early. Now GK first steps up, tries to look for a little bit more, but it will be skills that takes down more of them. 3 players for the MADBULLS, 5 eliminations, but maybe they don't expect another team here. Skill just runs through, hands open, just ready for GK first to take him down.
This is the wedge of teams that were forced together, Blank. It's all chaos because of that position, because of the circle. They are forced into these engagements and they are having to fight through. Somehow, the MADBULLS keep 2 of themselves alive. TJB is still going. Big are fighting with 4, all the same on the southwest edge. They have got a lot of control right now if they can keep a hold of this fight.
GK first tries to move forward. They look for another vehicle, maybe hoping to dip out of this one. Back in the passenger seat, this guy is the turret. Leaves this fight to the guys from Big now. Just 2 players from MADBULLS over the ridge side. Na'Vi still dealing with Shockwave over towards the east. 2 players still within the circle, though, can start to move over that ridge line.
Big starting to want position in this next zone as well. They're worried about their back, but the blue zone will push, and it will push hard now as the zones start to get into the later days. NEXUS take a knock across the way. They were down to 3, and Na'Vi spotting out players every which way, and everybody suffering on this eastern side now as well. Na'Vi leveraging their position, but they're going to have to move further west.
Yeah, Shockwave was giving them trouble earlier, but Na'Vi put a stop to that when they realized that's one of the only teams towards that eastern side. There is also NEXUS to contend with, but slowly but surely they are being eliminated by the blue itself. Now just Doran.
Up for the challenge, Monkey finds the knock. That was Zarek as well. Still alive, and both of these players taking fights with separate teams right now. It's really, really tough times on the south side. There's Big taking pressure as well. They were on 4, but they maybe a little bit too slow on that rotate. TJB got ahead of them. GK first now left solo after a knock to his teammate, and Big can move forwards. Mihi is down. I don't think they're in a position to get that res, so Big down to 2 now.
Yeah, Zittel went down, and GK first takes a huge amount of punishment there. I think as XTEAM were taking shots towards him, GK first will have to dip back away and try and get some reses going. SHOCKWAVE, so very low.
Not going to go down just yet. Take Aim Gaming. This is now, I think, Na'Vi chiming in from the top of the hill. Look at that position that they have. No one is there to try and contest it. They will have to move away from it, but everybody else not yet in the circle. They will have to move under the view of Na'Vi.
Yeah, this is one of the best positions in the circle for Na'Vi. So many times have teams won out from this spot. It's difficult to hold when you get a northern shift like this towards them, so then they have to deal with teams that might swing on that north side. But I think Na'Vi has dealt with this one very, very cleanly. Look at these great shots from GK first. Spots out Keme shortly after this one as well.
Yeah, and gets that spray down up towards the top of the hill. Na'Vi wanting to control both sides of their hill and doing so fairly effectively. Nobody else at a full 4 team. X-Team spread out wildly. I say wildly, they've got a 1-1-1 split with their 3 remaining players across. Logan hesitating out in the circle. We'll have to push in. X-Team trying to fight uphill towards Big, isolate these teams on the south, and try and take them down before they can make their push.
GK first now pinned between X-Team and Big. Na'Vi, though, moving up towards X-Team, and with them being so split, this might just be easy pickings.
Matic out the zone, might get knocked there if he can't make it, just about gets through. With a slur of HP, you can see that bottom left of the screen really, really low. Looking to get that heal on. Na'Vi now challenging as X-Team move up to the ground beneath them. Meku remains up on high. Tixi leaning in. Should spot the gun there from Logan. Moves forward, sees the player, goes for the spray, and it's good. Tixi, you wouldn't expect anything less from him. Nightmare in the vehicle. Wants to try and get that challenge, wants to try and get the drop swave, trying to hide in his own vehicle, but out and down. GK first sees to it. The solo player from TJB, 8 eliminations on the team and guaranteed 4th place.
Yeah, it takes down the entirety of Big on his lonesome so far. GK first has been doing some unreal work and now lined up into 3rd place. GK first, goodness me, him alongside Zittel. This Golden Mirado certainly has given them looks so far, even moving up towards Na'Vi's position.
Doran on the back right might outlast GK first if Na'Vi turn their attention his way. But Doran will have to crest that ridgeline sometime or other. GK first actually
still fighting.
Shots down range. I mean, why not? At this point, everything you get is gravy. You're happy with this game so far. Na'Vi with 4, though. They played the position beautifully. GK's position is known. Doran spotted, backed off behind a rock. Kitsune wants this push. Meku is there for the backup. They know the position of the 2 remaining players now. They can fully put the pressure on. And they can line it up, create that firing line. GK First wants the challenge. Meku up, Tixie down the hill. Will be able to win out the first, but unfortunately GK First can go no further. Doran does, in fact, win it out in the end. First aid to seal the deal. Meku down, Kitsune maybe suffering a knock there, but Na'Vi, no way they lose both of them. Doran wants the flush point, and he will be able to find it, but that's all that he's getting. Na'Vi take the chicken dinner.
Honestly, that game was just all GK First, right? And we have to talk about him because that man was fearless so many times, moving up into crazy spots where, you know, he was taking out teams, acting as if he was a 4-man unit, which again does not make sense. He was playing those spots as if he was a team all on his own. But again, he was able to take out so many players by himself with the help of Zittel for a while. I think Zittel was hoping to take an off angle down below, but really should have probably regrouped with GK First there. Regardless, he got information. XTEAM went down. I just cannot believe what I was seeing there. Again, that fearlessness does come back to bite him though. It challenges Na'Vi with 4 players and isn't able to get that second place, which would have been great in terms of rankings. But again, Na'Vi, all the boys on the desk predicted them. Again, it's one of those positions on the map where it's incredibly hard to lose from, especially when you get a hard shift towards the north like that after they'd already seen the guys from Shockwave away. But GK First, 1,000 damage, 7 eliminations, goodness me.
He was on an absolute tear that game. I mean, it was very impressive. And it's a thing that we highlighted towards the, or you highlighted towards the start of the game, Blank. I mean, this is a team that has been trying to take a lot of wide splits, but GK First does most of the heavy lifting. It's, again, the GK First show. So in terms of TJB's points, sure, that was good. In terms of their reformation, as maybe we've seen over the course of this tournament, it kind of was a little bit of a slip.
It was, but again, you have to look at it this way. They took the fight between them and VP whilst all the while taking shots from MADBULLS and PIONER fairly well, to be honest with you. And I think the main reason you see GK First getting all these points is because he was one of the only ones survived alongside him and Zittel. I think Zittel did a great job getting him into positions, great job at holding his off angles. And when it came to that end game where, you know, there's so much space that is open in those final circles, he does a really good job to just live and get those individual points where he can. And Big really drops the ball, allowing him to get so many points over towards them and not clearing him sooner.
That southwest crunch between Picado and Los Leones really punished a lot of teams, and nobody was able to weather the storm that Na'Vi were bringing, taking the chicken dinner on Miramar.
Boys, as Max said, that was the freest win of our lives, the freest point. With all 3 of us choosing Na'Vi, I think it was like 12, 13, 14 minutes of time where they didn't have to move and just had to wait for teams to come to them. What a great win by Na'Vi to close things out, but a good attempt by a few other teams in there, as well as, I think it mentioned Big, Lars, from our watching, doing some decent work with 15 points.
Yeah, I mean, we saw SHOCKWAVE as well as Beast, even just as 2 players left alone later on. They were effectively in the lion's den when it came to that south position, and they were surrounded by so many players. But they still converted quite a few eliminations just as a duo. So I think for Big, this is pretty decent points coming in for them alongside it, 15 points. And again, another TJB performance. Very happy to see it.
Yeah, I mean, we saw on GK First was, what, 7 of the 8 elims that he was so good. Okay, GK First was so good on this game. He even eliminated Lin of his own team. He was just on the tail. He was like, oh, damn, crossfire, mate. I'm sorry, but misclick. Yeah, that happens. But yeah, TJB seeming like they've been able to, you know, build that momentum after the first 3 days of this third phase, which is good, is what we wanted to see as the best time to improve right before the finals. But, I mean, Na'Vi, they drop Cobreria, right? You give them northern shift after northern shift. You give them also high ground position. They can have the massive split to get all the information. If all of us predict the same team, it's pretty much they got a given game. So they play it well. They remain as a 4-man. Easy.
To be fair, Max, whenever you select the same team as I select, I do get a little bit worried.
We tested in PMWI. Like, if me and Kalaris pick the same team, Kalaris is no blessing overperforms my curse. So we tested it already. Yeah.
Well, you know what, MADBULLS, they were tested in that game. 8 elims, the 3rd highest elims actually in the match, with only 1 placement point. So again, showing even if they do go out early, they're still going to take a lot of people with them. As you look down the rest of the list here, VIRTUS.PRO, unfortunately, only 3 points. PIONER 2, MUERTE 2. Some rough times for some of these CIS teams, but also some rough times for teams like Eastern Stars here, coming in 15th place, only 1 point and 0 elims.
It's bittersweet for Eastern Stars because really going into this entire event, they were one of the only teams that could contest with Game Lord's position for PMGC. Now it's pretty much, like, it's not even pretty much, right? It's impossible to catch up to Game Lord. Game Lord will almost 100%, unless something weird happens, be the team to make it to PMGC. So yeah, a little bit tough, but hey, you're talking about big here, Kalaris, and yeah, that hold on MADBULLS, not an easy one, but they got a few limbs off of it.
As I said, this really was the lion's den. Because of the way the terrain works here, all of the teams in the south were channeled into this one hill. Okay, that was cool. To be able to, you know, and thus, you know, whoever is able to triumph from the amount of eliminations that were coming in from that angle, fantastic stuff for them overall. Like, either west or east of that position, it's very flat. Nobody wants to go for there, so they all had to channel up that direction to try and make it work, and not a lot of people survived.
And I even just realized, even if you just wanted to contest with Na'Vi in the first place, while Na'Vi had that high ground position, you have to go down into a valley, then back uphill. So pretty much mission impossible right there. All the teams fighting in the south. If you survive, then you have to go in the valley, then fight Na'Vi. You can't. Na'Vi had just got the perfect spot, and the win was. If they didn't get the win, I would have been genuinely surprised. But luckily enough, they get it.
I mean, you know, the thing is though, Max, you're saying if they didn't get the win, you'd be surprised. Honestly, if it was like a different team, if I'm not going to name any names, but there's only very few teams at the moment in our lobbies that I would feel confident saying, okay, if they had the zone like that, they're going to get the chicken dinner. I feel like other teams are capable to fight their way in, whereas other teams just really can't defend that position, unfortunately for them. But one team we got to talk about here, as you mentioned it before, Clark, so we're going to talk about Big a little bit here and take a look at their player stats. Because again, it's important to talk about these boys. They've had a rough time in the first couple of phases. They did have a glimpse of looking better, but unfortunately haven't been able to rise back to that kind of stature. But we can see SHOCKWAVE here leading the charge with 608 damage and the 2 elims. But Beast, not bad to see him again with the 4 elims. He was typically the player we saw with the most elims on the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too surprising that they would take casualties coming in from that southwest side, considering, as I mentioned, the majority of that is quite barren in terms of cover. Then they were able to send it into the middle of all of these players and somehow still get some eliminations off the back of that. I think that is absolutely a success considering the game and the nature of it. Because unfortunately, for all those teams down in the south as well, even if you do come off the back of winning any situation down there, you then have to rival up against a difficult Na'Vi that Max has already mentioned in terms of their position, and it's not going to go their way. So if you find yourself there, you know what? Go for as many eliminations as possible, and that will be your win condition for that game, in effect.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously Big still have way more chances to get themselves some extra points, and I believe they're safe at the moment when it comes to getting into the finals. I'm not actually 100% confident on that now that I think about it. I don't remember where they stood when it came to points.
I think this should be okay.
They were in 15th at the start of the day, so...
Not so safe yet, but we'll see. They still have some time.
It was a 76-point lead, though, on 17th position. So, like, with 3 more days remaining, it is very comfortable. Unless they have, like, a horrible next 3 days, which they got themselves a few points here. But there's a chance. But I think that if they have a good day today, like, they're in pretty much, yeah.
Okay, well, we saw something during the highlight reel that I want to bring up, but I'm going to give everyone a heads up. I want to see this twice. Once in normal speed and once in slow-mo. Now, here's the challenging part. Max, man, when it's in slow-mo, I want you to do all the sound effects for this fight. No, it's not slow-mo yet.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh. I thought that was one. Okay, I'll wait.
So now you got to slow that down, Max.
I want to see the slow-mo version of it now. And Max, I want you to do all the sound effects for what happens. This is your challenge, and if you are correct, we will give you 1 prediction point.
Oh man, okay, I'm good.
But if you're good, not correct. If you do it well enough, so we can rerun that one more time in half speed as Maxman is getting ready. So all of his vocal prowess.
He's moving his mic.
You wish you had these vocal cords. Yes.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh no. Oh, Ace over there shooting down. Oh, I got him. Yes.
Honestly, I wasn't going to give it to you at first, but when he started adding, he's over there.
This was horrific.
Oh. Even John is saying terrible. He doesn't write often. He actually went out of his way to say it was terrible. Okay, thank you.
I thought it wasn't bad. You know what? I challenge John Allen to do a better job of that if he's going to call you out, okay? At least you went for it, Max.
I committed.
Max does give it his all when we ask him to do something, to be fair. So, yeah.
Well, we could ask you to do your Blink impression, but we'll save that for another day. Let's take a look at our overall standings, though, and see where the teams currently stand at the moment within our third phase of play. And we will see MADBULLS, 181 points, able to move themselves up to first place. Keep in mind, it was DeMorte at number 1 when we started the day off.
Ooh. Big jump up from the big three here in RV, TJB, and MADBULLS. And I mean, we said Unicorns of Love currently the only team being able to represent for Western Europe. Well, hey, TJB being able to replicate that, and can they still hold on to it? From what we've seen so far, it seems like that's the case.
I mean, did you just say big three and include TJB in there? What? Wait, no. Like,
I mean, the big three of right now. I mean, the big three of right now. I mean, not the entire tournament. Otherwise,
okay, well covered. Yes. But that is surprising, right? The fact that TJB is currently in second place. This has been a great start for them today. This is exactly what we were hoping for. Sanhok's coming up next. Actually, I wonder if they're not in that group. I'll have a check a little bit. But you know, ultimately, what a step up from them from phase to phase. Hopefully, this continues.
I'm not convinced, though, Kalaris. You know what? If they do well here in this phase, if they do well maybe tomorrow, I still necessarily won't be convinced, because this could be a flash in the pan for them. When it comes to finals, they don't have much time left to perform. They have only those couple of days to get as high as possible to get themselves into the regionals. But we also have to get ourselves into the third match of the day, and it's time to send things over to John Allen and Blink.
Hey, look, I didn't mean to do you like that, Max, but like, I admire the commitment. I think it was very, very admirable. I absolutely loved it. It was awful, though. Like, I want more of that content, please, in the future. I'm ready for the Maxman VOs on the fights. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of mean of you, man. I mean, I think he really put his all into it there. I thought it was good. It did kind of like get a little bit weird towards the end, right? Yeah, the ending, not so good.
There was
beginning,
no
though. The beginning, though, I was like, wow, this is a movie director at work. This guy knows what's up.
Max just said that was Oscar worthy in the chat, and I mean, yeah, sure. Let's go with that. It was really, really good. Well done, Max. Moving on. Sanhok, blank, cut down the middle on the plane path. Easy drops for everybody on board. We're going to be looking at those newly dubbed big three of the phase.
Absolutely. I mean, right now, this is getting a little bit spooky for some of these teams. GK first overhand, 8k damage, 1,100 over effect, which is kind of unreal. DeMorte down towards Sami, maybe looking for another podium finish. Now, this is something that has consistently happened for almost the past 7 Sanhoks. So it would be a shame if it doesn't happen now. MADBULLS, though, 181 points, and TJB 165. Unfortunately, will not be here on Sanhok, though I would say that's a blessing for them today. I think their Sanhok gameplay, maybe not the most amazing in the world. I think that's kind of a false positive coming from our last Sanhok, where they were taken down by DeMorte right at the end, but usually it doesn't go that smoothly for them. They had a very, very good position down towards the southeast side of Quarry with high ground to play around with, so there's not much a lot of teams there could have done. MADBULLS over towards Paradise Resort, and we'll just be boogieing on out from that position.
Hard northern shift on the circle. The Northwest Island as occupied as it will ever be in this phase. All 3 of the teams that normally drop there have indeed found their footing. Eastern Stars, with that Northbridge cross potential, will Game Lord challenge it out. Na'Vi, potential to cross on the south, or they could try and swing around north, go across maybe just to the west of Boot Camp on the river on the swim. Have to wait and see. Big, we've seen boats come out for them before, but they have been guarded out as well on that northern side, so they will need to be careful.
Yeah, teams are starting to get very wise of the big push coming through recently, so I don't think that many teams will not be expecting them to either take a boat down from where Miki's playing on the southwest side. I did a little bit of digging in that last game whilst we're waiting. I know VP's not playing here, but with Corker jumping in the lobby, I have to talk about, maybe why they did this, right? So at the moment, you're seeing Old Boy with 2,700 damage done. This is the beginning of phase 3, just the first 3 days. Tulika with almost 3,000 damage done, Yankee with 2,500, but Mia's down below with 1,935 damage done. Now, I've always seen this guy as like a very good support player for the team. However, maybe he's just being a little bit too lackluster for them. And bringing in Corky here is maybe a chance for him to show what he's worth here in those last 3 days before they make a true decision coming into the finals, at least give them a chance, right? So far, hasn't been exceptional for VIRTUS.PRO. They are starting to slip down the rankings slightly, but that might be just why. So there is definitely something there, and it doesn't lack reasoning.
No, I mean, I mean, obviously, they're one of the stronger teams in the lobby, trying to make their mark here. You don't want to just let that one slip. And bringing Corker in gives him a chance to show his prowess as well, as you say. So we'll be waiting to see what he can do to fit in with the rest of the squad as time goes on. Not this game, however. QODEX in Kampong, southeast side. You actually have 4 Romanian men down to their southwest. Lakawi drop coming through from Ruthless Esports on their north side, so they'll have to probably push through that. Doubt they'll go all the way out to Quarry, but they might be in for a challenge on the hills near Ruthless.
Yeah, potentially. It also might be potentially that Ruthless don't even realize that the guys from QODEX are playing down here. Is a typical drop spot for Ruthless before heading over towards that western side of Quarry when it does shift down towards that south side. For them, though, there is an easy enough rotation up towards the north. Death Machine takes a 2-2 split, picking up the position that VP usually plays down towards Camp Bravo. XTEAM's still in this area, though. On the other hand, Unicorns of Love, again, another game where they can potentially shine here. We've seen multiple times that them getting caught out and rolled on their rotations down towards the south or over towards that northwest side. They tend to have a much easier time of it, however, when they play up towards Cow and don't have to move too much.
ARB, spot out Take Aim Gaming. ARB, one of the crucial teams, actually, looking at the overall tables. They're on the chase for Death Machine right now. Both of whom are playing in this game. ARB sat at the moment 33 points behind Death Machine. It's a recoverable gap, but right now Death Machine in 16th place. This is on the overalls blank to see who qualifies for the finals. ARB are behind, so they need to make up those 33 points if they want a chance. Take Aim Gaming over the hills, past Unicorns 11, seemingly filter through the cracks. Toffee's last at the back, rear guard will not go down either.
Yeah, that's unacceptable, to be honest with you. I feel like at least one of those players should have been knocked there, so it's very unfortunate that we don't see a single knock coming through from the guys of Unicorns of Love. I'm not sure what exactly happened.
You normally expect just that goes really badly. You roll straight through a team. But, you know, sometimes that's just how it goes. Maybe they're more preoccupied with other engagements going on. I mean, they're pressuring on Take Aim Gaming. MADBULLS have a lot of neighbors right now in Paradise Resort, probably more than they've had in a long, long time. Take Aim Gaming, for their role, their position, they now have a solid northern side compound.
Yeah, exactly. Which is odd that, you know, Unicorns of Love would let that one slip past them so easily. This is a position that Unicorns of Love would have ideally liked to have held. And for Take Aim Gaming, I believe they will have started down in ruins. So this is one hell of a raz up towards that northern side. Na'Vi currently looking to hold out NEXUS coming from Painan.
There's a lot of teams on the northeast side. The MUERTE still down all the way in the southwest. Eastern Stars did go across the bridge big and moving up to that northern point, and Na'Vi swung across that trifecta compound blank. So they are going for those rotations that will probably kind of be expected by a lot of teams. Northeast side starts.
Heads over towards that northwest though, John. Now this is where things get a little bit tricky for a few teams. Obviously we can still have a chance where this moves hard west towards the northwest island. You have these compounds that come into play on the coastal edge, but a lot of teams are a little bit uncertain now as most of them have headed up towards that north side. There will be not a lot of space here for these teams to play around with. Everyone has to get a little bit careful and wary of these positions.
Look at that spray down from Beg for Mercy. Does pause, doesn't go for the second, instead goes for the flush and gets knocked in response.
I think he sort of expected the player up front to keep moving if there was another guy in that vehicle. I'm not sure if Hamodi moved over to the other seat and took shots backwards. Either way, it's a pretty interesting play, right? You just stop dead once player gets knocked out and you assume that's just a solo player who's rotating. Nade goes over the top. Na'Vi, at least Meku, knows roughly the situation that they're in and the direction the Nexus are coming from.
Nade over the top for Meku. Well, not really finds too much. There is an off angle for Tixi, but it seems like that's potentially known. Puts one in, but Nexus is down the hill already. Tixi with a lot to do. Needs to line them up, needs to knock them down. Only gets one, and a little bit of damage to be fair. Now Na'Vi need to answer. They need to move through, use this opportunity. Force Nexus into this fight. Nexus start to fan out, start to spread. Try and leverage that line and get these reses on board. Both of these teams looking to try and keep themselves alive. Look at the off angle though for Na'Vi as it starts to come through. The shots are landing, but not going to find a knock just yet. Meku puts more ordnance down range and a double comes on through. An excellent nade to get the re-knock as well as a fresh one over onto Redex. Now just EXO on the forefront to hold off against this first push. Up on the rock, excellent movement from Meku. Makes short work of the forward guard, but Doran's on the backstop and will be able to shut the door on him. A push down the hill, in comes the off angle. Kitsune now in for a challenge against Doran and loses again. Doran getting the best of Na'Vi. Matic now up for the challenge as well. Wants the spray, will be able to find it where his teammates could not.
Messy fight, but 4v4, I mean, that can go as good as you would hope it to, right? I mean, for a 4v4, losing 2 players to Nox there in quite difficult terrain to play around with, so much hard cover to move in through. I think for Na'Vi, they do win out that fight fairly confidently. Kitsune had that off angle to play around with. I think Doran has just been playing out of his mind in this phase 3 though for Nexus, and so difficult players to take down, even when you think it should be fairly easy for Kitsune to get the read on them. But Doran's still able to pull up somewhat of a fight. Now Na'Vi can start to move through boot camp, move up towards that north side. They could even just hang around towards the edge of boot camp here, just depending whether you get that western shift over towards the northwest island, in which case they're in a great position to make it happen.
Oh, lovely laser shots there from Effect. You'd expect nothing less. Spray down through the window is clean. A Death Machine likely going to lose a player here. MADBULLS will descend on this fairly shortly. Look at that. Look at the angles. Hamodi pops out the door, allows Nasa to crawl on outside. So they are they're going to try and make this cross, but that is hopeful. That is wishful thinking.
It is wishful thinking there, John. And I mean, I really hope for anything less. MADBULLS now, just one solo player, and players on either side will be watching him.
Ruthless on the east side near XTEAM. Focus out in the open, but Logan doesn't quite get the full spray down. Salazar all the way out, still in the blue, will be able to suppress the position. First aid in for Logan. MUERTE still all the way south in the blue zone. It's the spray from Logan as he gets a second opportunity to go on through. Nano Baby makes it out of the zone, and again, the spray just doesn't land.
Nightmare's also just not in a position to receive that player. Looks up towards his teammate, hoping to spot any players that might be moving up on his position. Nade's over the top. DBS now comes through. Nade placed on the left side to try and isolate some players.
Force them around the side, try and line them up, and it's not going to go well. Logan allows Ruthless to swell around him. They will need to get the heal off onto Salazar as Nightmare does suppress the position, but needs to take some stims of his own if he wants to take this fight. Their zone does go northeast, so they've got a little bit of time to play with, but they have to move.
That's a really late peek as well from Nightmare there. You expect him to provide a little bit more cover to his teammate, either on the left side where the nade had popped already. But yeah, interesting stuff. 2 players start to make their way out towards that right side of him. Nano still watching, providing that anchor point for the rest of the team to move up towards. Matic will pick himself up a little bit of a loot crate over towards boot camp, can start to move up towards that north side. MADBULLS maybe want to move a little bit further back down towards Paradise Resort, hold out on the rocky outcrops, get some high ground advantage to start scouting some of these teams. But we know MADBULLS, they're aggressive. They want to take it to the rest of the teams in the lobby, and currently they're holding a very big split here towards the center, looking for as many teams as possible surrounding them. They start to play out the rest of the game more efficiently.
4 Romanian men trying to move past, but suffering the slings and arrows of outrageous QODEX. Might not be so noble, but they will survive for now.
Get Wreck moves up, just underneath. Still, Michu, decent position to play around with here on top of the rock side. PNL is down and out for QODEX currently. Woodson still holding these freaky little off angles that he tends to hold very, very often here, which, yes, some of his teammates do go down in the process, but he's always there to find a couple of pickups on the way out. But recently, MONEYKEN has not been living as long as they might like. Ruthless Esports come up against Unicorns of Love there, and they headbutt against one another. In this case, it is Ruthless to break the nose on the forehead of Unicorns of Love, and it's not a forehead I'd like to headbutt anyway, with the big spike out the top.
That's pretty... I don't think that's a fair headbutting competition if someone's got a spike.
Mate,
well, there is such a thing as a fair... Oh, wait. No, you're right. I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that, Blank. Wow. Definitely difficult to get past, but Pocus tries to move around the side, get past this Crux. Dadaev managed to get that heal off, but teammate does go down and wants to get some answer for it. We'll be able to do so, but swings out wide, and Crypto is there, ready and waiting. Headbutts with the spike.
That's right, man. He's even got the little horns on the top of his helmet too, so he's really cosplaying at the moment. MUERTE struggling now. With Dadaev out, you wonder who has the rest of the first aid kits. Ulysses will finally fall to a bleed out. Flyke still alive, but more than likely left behind. The smoke train now being incorporated by MUERTE to try and make their way up the hill. You can see that's all the way on the northeastern side. Unicorns of Love, they are watching this one very, very diligently.
They certainly are, keeping their eyes on, and why not? The more teams you can get rid of, the better. And if you can pick up a couple of knocks on teams that are pushing close to you, you can pick up meds, potentially go for a heal strat. We've seen how effective that can be. As normally we see Dadaev for MUERTE left in very, very late. This time around, not going to be able to do so. Not just yet. But MUERTE, actually, they still have 3. So there is potential for them to try and move on through, or alter and choose a different heal strat player. MADBULLS, center compound.
Yeah, for MUERTE, they need to work fast now, though. Getting that single player up now in Zone 4, like, if he started the first aid kit during Zone 3, yes, they will be able to bring him back into the fold. And luckily, that's exactly what they've been able to do. And with the amount of medical supplies that are been looted on their long, drawn-out push up towards this top side of the circle from Sami, should be fairly healthy in terms of this. For MADBULLS, though, again, it's just that chokehold they're able to apply to the lobby here. They had so much space available to them towards the center of this circle. Now, it may look, in this case, like they were circle blessed, but we saw how much space they were holding. They were holding the crossroads. They were holding up towards the northeast side. They've battered teams as they've tried to make their way in towards Paradise Resort, and now they're reaping the rewards because of that.
Fights for Pioneer against Eastern Stars. 1-for-1. Fash holds the building. Keme, though, will be another challenge for him. In through the window, not quite allowed in just yet. Repositions around the side. He's fast on his feet, but is he quicker on the trigger? Unfortunately, no. Keme sets him down. MADBULLS predicted for the triple as Eastern Stars pick up the wipe.
Yeah, a horrible spot for a lot of teams to have to push towards here. MUERTE lose English towards a player from Unicorns of Love, still spotting out this position. Eastern Stars just moseying around under this spot. This is towards the southwest side, as Big have tried to make their way across the bridge. A little bit too late here for them. Hammer was able to take down Matic, but there has been a refrag between that fight of Arabian Champions and Na'Vi. However, there is a timer on that one for Na'Vi as the circle starts to push in from behind there, with Meku going down as well, and no refrag to be found. Na'Vi's beginning of this fight is looking a little bit scary for themselves.
ARB are dallying here. They aren't going for the push. They're not going for a full flush. They want to secure this res, and instead going to allow Na'Vi to get some reses of their own. The zone probably won't allow Meku to get back up, but Na'Vi at 3 is still a force to be reckoned with, especially with Jamaz yet to get back to fighting form. If Tixi lands shots like that, it's going to be all the harder. Tixi goes down to follow, but there's another player behind the rock. Tixi likely to get flushed here. Matic speaks out and wants the refrag, waits for the bullets to exhaust themselves in the mag. It was well principled and Wadea falls. MADBULLS. Now just low HP players on the inside. Only Jamaz, the freshly healed player, and Amodi to stand up. Matic out in the blue. Kitsune as a bat stop. 3 players alive, but Meku will bleed out. A nice shot coming through over onto Jamaz, and the rest of the players go down. It's just Kitsune and Matic remaining. However, Na'Vi stay alive on the south.
And that is perfect for them. Again, there was a timer on that fight for Meku, getting up nice, close and personal. Definitely stuck it to the guys of Arabian Champions. Kitsune also able to find 4 Romanian men, and that's going to make their approach into the circle much, much easier. Kitsune with 13 first aid kits, maybe just looking to take a leaf out of the book of MUERTE and maybe just go for the heal off here, which wouldn't be too bad, but still has to get a little bit further in. With only 13 first aid kits, it's not going to take you too far in this game.
And seven eliminations, and remember, he hasn't looted the ARB squad just yet. They did move forwards, but they didn't quite get all the way in there, so that I'm assuming there's probably at least 13 more to be picked through. Get wrecked, still bleeding out. 4 Romanian men trying to push further north, away from that engagement. QODEX holding out on Paradise Resort, and it's paying dividends for them on the position.
Interesting position of this circle as well. Moves off towards that eastern side, and now you've got Michiu and the rest of QODEX currently holding on the high ground with 4 Romanian men underneath. Eastern Stars push up towards Game Lord at the moment. Akashi laid a little bit low.
Not going to go down just yet. The blue zone might do the trick, though, as Keme pots an aid over the top. Bazzi has been knocked in the meantime, probably leaving them down at 2. Zerek trying to take shots over towards Game Lord. The Game Lord are repositioning. The blue zone is really, really punishing here. It pushes them towards the MADBULLS. I think everybody on this west side goes down now, or they go for a heal strat.
Yeah, I mean, for them at the moment, it's just sightlines galore for MADBULLS. There's no real way of ingress for them. Matic might even be able to take down Eastern Stars as they make their way into the circle. He's currently pushed up, trying to cause some chaos within the blue. Give more time for Kitsune to heal.
I think they already dropped all the first aids over towards Robs. We'll see if that is the case. Na'Vi is still going for Matic with 1 first aid. As you say, Kitsune probably going to have the lion's share of those. Keme spotted. Shot down actually by MADBULLS from across the way. Still on 4 eliminations. Unicorns of Love on 8 on the north side, but they've got a hard south shift to contend with.
Yeah, and just Robs is in it, all on his lonesome there. We'll just send directly central.
He's gone.
Now he's gone. He's dead. He's out of there. Fortunately spotted. I mean, typically that would happen with the open space down towards that bottom side. But again, a little bit of high ground for QODEX to mess around with. MADBULLS moving through the tree line, but it's Matic to spot them. Fortunately for him, he's instantly refragged.
Kitsune still going out in the zone at the moment. You've got Kitsune, Mazzaro for Big going through on the heal strat right now, and everybody else is going to try and contend closer to the circle. So only 2 healers at this stage of the Sanhok. MADBULLS, they move back up to the foothills of Paradise.
10 first aid kits for Kitsune there. We'll keep him pretty for a little while, but maybe wants to move up towards the circle. If he can get in towards those end zones, that's good for him. Mazzaro, unfortunately, is spotted by the MADBULLS. It will be the play zone to take him out, though, I believe. Still on 6 eliminations for the MADBULLS themselves. Unicorns of Love moving up. DBS just on the outskirts here.
Close range on QODEX. For Crypto to take the shots, has to reposition away from the rock. The Molotov is there, but he crawls away from it. Nicely placed, a nade in hand. Wants the cook, and slows QODEX. A nade over the top, and it finds a lot of damage, but doesn't get either of the knocks. That allows them to heal, but it also allows them to push forwards. That is so much damage found. Icy could prove to find a knock on the back. Puts it long, and Woodson repositions away. A little bit longer on that cook, and that would have been curtains for Woodson. Icy once more. 3 nades still to go. A little bit left on the nade, and Unicorns of Love yet to make their mad push as MADBULLS move on up.
I think for Icy, it's not a bad initial grenade there, even though he doesn't cook it very long. What he really was looking for was just a little bit more extra time so they couldn't heal out. He repositions them during the heal. That's fantastic. Woodson's still low. Crypto has to run away. Laid a little bit low there by either a nade or the blue zone itself. Now just Icy remaining for the team. Looking to get a few more points, especially with this going all the way north on the circle. You'd hope they'd pick up some numbers here.
Oh, MADBULLS gets spotted by Woodson, but he gives his position away as well. The blue zone will push him in. Effect and Zarek will be on the lookout this way as well. Easy pickings for the duo. Michiu and Maniken as well now operating as a duo. Actually get one and get two. Effect and Zarek, both those players at the forefront will fall down. 5th place for Na'Vi in the meantime as their heals run on out. The 2 players from QODEX actually moving through against the 2 from MADBULLS who have to reposition around the bottom of this cliff. They will be left on 2 players, Blank. There's no way they can get these reses, certainly not both of them. No way.
You wonder how many more first aids as well Icy's got. Can he draw this one out a little bit more? Blue zone will envelop the 2 from the MADBULLS. Maybe they'll be able to bring them back up again. The effect, and now time is ticking for Moneyken all on his lonesome.
That was so close, far too close for comfort, in fact. In comes Icy. He's in the zone, Blank.
Finds at least one, but I don't imagine he's got many first aids left. That nade should do the trick.
And it will be Moneyken to face off against the MADBULLS 4 as they move on through, looking to try and take their second chicken dinner of the day, and there it goes. Effect closes the door and picks up another chicken dinner for MADBULLS today. That's 3 on the phase. They're only 1 off that 4 chicken dinner mark that they found in both the previous phases.
I think if you look at MADBULLS as a team and their ability to keep all 4 players left alive in those final moments every single game, it really is a testament to how careful they are and how good each individual player is as well to hold off on their own. A lot of times they're able to take these small pauses while 2 players are able to pick up the slack, take some shots towards teammates, teams that maybe aren't watching their way or teams that are looking directly at them to just give more time for those reses to come through. That seemed like such an unlikely position to get 2 players back up on their feet behind that rock, but you saw the immediate position they took as well, running along the top side to instantly get behind that little bit of rocky cover, so they knew exactly what they were doing and when they needed to do it. So it's fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really clean there. It was unfortunate to lose those 2 knocks. The suppressor, I think, on the spray down from QODEX was absolutely crucial. Didn't give the position away as strongly as if you had something else on the end of the barrel. Really, really nice stuff coming through. I feel like QODEX, they absolutely had an opportunity, but it is so hard to make that call.
Yeah, 100%. I think for Crypto as well, you've got to feel for the guy. With that nade that got sent over the top side, taking both players to 10%, like that could have very easily been a double knock. Then he just rolls over the top side with the DBS, doesn't have to stick in that position, doesn't take the nade damage either, and is able to quickly pick up that other player. It could have been a very different story towards the end of the game. I still think MADBULLS would have cleaned it out with the chicken dinner, but still, it's a case of they would have got a 2nd place at least. You look at that game though, and you think to yourself, MADBULLS, oh, they got the circle, it's easy, it's fine for them. But you look towards that midpoint, around 15 minutes in, and look where they were playing. They had literally the entirety of the zone to themselves because they had a 4 one-man split going on, right? On each edge of the circle. So they were very, very consistent on just being able to keep people away and buy themselves enough time to pick up that compound towards the center and then slowly move over towards the eastern side after they cleared the west. I think I said this earlier in the tournament, but there is always a clear plan for the MADBULLS. They know exactly where they need to go, how they need to play it out, and what is the next step.
They make those plans and they execute. A 2nd chicken dinner today for MADBULLS.
I think we can just all agree MADBULLS are just built different here. What another match out of them. A second chicken dinner, as John just said, as I can get my words out. And also a second, I think, correct prediction in a row for us here. Because we're all picking the same team. Because it just seems to be, as Clara said, the easiest prediction day we've ever had.
Yeah, what was well, as soon as you have these shifts hit where they are for MADBULLS, I mean, even the compound that they had, even when it shifts away from that, the fact that in Paradise Resort there are problems that exist for each other inside Paradise Resort, they're not looking towards MADBULLS. They're not thinking about that as much as they should be doing in those moments. So for MADBULLS, it was a nice transition up from there, and yeah, able to clinch this with both hands. By the horns, boys.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the teams in this lobby, what they do, they just bank on the position and they're hoping the circle comes their way. If they don't, then they have to do a big rotation with minimal information. They had a massive split in the middle of that circle. Yep. If it went north of the road, boom, effective there. If it goes anywhere further south, they have 2 players scouting that position, ready to go for a rotation. And of course, you have 1 player in the middle in case it centers up, which very rarely happens, but if it does, they have that covered also, right? And boom, instantly, the moment they have the circle move in, they know where it's about to end. Regroup, send it in, get that position, clear if needed, go for the win. It's, yeah, I mean, as you said earlier, Kalash, like, they are just better. They're just better. End of story.
They really are. 20 points for them here in this match. If you look down the rest of the list, though, you see Unicorns Love able to sneak their way through. Not until a final nade comes their way, though, getting 19 points. QODEX as well doing decently. Also, Na'Vi putting up a lot of limbs when it came to the match and how many players they had left alive. We'll check in with their stats actually a little bit later on today, once we get to that segment. But MUERTE 13th, looking at big. They got 9 points, 4 placement points in that one. Obviously, we had our little bit of a split when it came to that Northwest Island between Na'Vi, Eastern Stars, and Big. And they kind of all left each other alone. We didn't have any clashes between Big and Eastern Stars over in Hot 10.
Yeah, I mean, we were also potentially thinking if we were going to have a Northwestern Island shift, and a lot of teams would have not been in that circle. Only I think it was Big that would have been in that spot at the time. But it seems like things have definitely calmed down on the Northwestern Island. It seems like, you know, your Na'Vis, your Eastern Stars, and also your Big are a lot more respectful of each other, of their spots, and it doesn't seem like we have those weird fights anymore happening. Like, we're in phase 3. Things are just a lot more smoother now as things have moved on. But yeah, things are still getting interesting. Still, a few frags going to well Eastern Stars, which they needed. But yeah, overall, it doesn't really matter for them because you know Game Lord's going to be the ones to qualify. But this fight in particular, I know you were talking about it, Jason.
I was angry.
Na'Vi should not win these. They should not. And they're just like, we will. And they did.
Like, it was a... Wade just like doesn't shoot Matic as he runs out from behind a rock, and he actually ends up turning around the fight onto him, gets him down to about 1 HP, and then continues to push and get another nade, and I don't know how Na'Vi wins that. They shouldn't win.
No, not really. I mean, the fact that, though, that Na'Vi has the gun accuracy to be able to pull it off, and then the strafing ability between the shots to be able to pull it off, whilst having the blue pressuring up against them is just, it's technically godlike play, considering that they should have been shut down by another team on the other side, but they still have to play well to be able to make it happen on their side of things.
Yeah, actually, let's check in with their player stats here if we can, just to see who really was stepping up. I think we were talking about Matic today has just been playing insane. I know Max called out Tixie before at the start of the day here, but, you know, Na'Vi want to show us there's other players who can do well. And I mean, I just don't know what's happening. Like Na'Vi in the match before, now Na'Vi here, they're consistently picking up some big limbs, and they're proving, as we were saying before, they're just on another level compared to some of these teams we have in these lobbies.
Hey, even Kitsune being able to frag a little bit this game. But yeah, the thing is, right, sure, I do highlight Tixie because Tixie was one of my favorite players in PUBG Mobile esports, period. But you got to also highlight that Matic Meku, insanely talented fragging duo, right? Like, this is a team that will force their way through in positions, even if they do not have the numbers. They did it this game in particular versus, I think it was Death Machine at some point. No, ARB Champion, sorry. You throw anything at this team, right, they have the sheer power to make it work out. I think their macro, currently, if you compare to MADBULLS might be a little bit higher, but if you put this team in a head-to-head, in a proper fight, I don't know who comes out on top because they're just so good when it comes to taking those 4v4s.
Well, you know what? We're going to have that fight happen at some point. It has to happen. It's destined to happen. But when it will be, we don't know. For you guys at home who are watching, we keep in mind, we want to see how you guys are watching PMPL. You guys need to make sure to post Instagram on Twitter with the hashtag PMPLWEU and show us how you guys are watching these matches. But also bonus points, kudos points, well, if we're on camera. Not John or Blank. They've had enough of it. They have had too many times now. We want to see our lovely faces on camera, or maybe our faces aren't as lovely as we think they are. For now, as we're about to head into our 4th match of the day, we want to throw you on over to a sweet little video, a 2v2 with Maximin and myself with some players from Death Machine, and you can enjoy laughing at how terrible I am, at least. Max was doing all right. All right, where we go?
Okay, let's go. Okay, wait, you go too far. Slow down. Wait for me.
There is a reason I am talent, not a player, because I am garbage.
Yeah, I know.
Bruh. What? Hold on. This is gonna be horrible.
They got crate. Wait a minute.
On the left.
What? They got Wally.
There we go. Bonk. Well, this was expected.
Here we go.
Oh no!
Oh, they burned themselves.
What?
Very nice. I kill Jason, you kill Modi.
Charge this!
Oh, man.
Damn, this smells good.
This is a Hamodi special. My goal is to kill Max at least once.
Wait, where do we go? Do we stay together or do we split? What is that sound? Oh no! Good job, look at that. How does it feel to be in 16th position so far in phase 2? Sorry. That was a bit... Look at that. Big boy spray.
That's it. Max hacking. Calling it now. He's a cheater. I have an idea. They'll never see this coming.
No, Jason, don't do that! Whoa!
No, I had that one.
Jason wanted to roll on me. Thank you for the save, bro.
There you go. Jason tried to go for the roll and got rolled himself. Unfortunate there, but you know what? That's, as he said, that's why he's talent and not a player.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, look, all I'm saying is I could have done a much better job. I feel like I should have subbed myself in there. It would have really saved our happy. We could have been victorious versus the Maxman. Unfortunately, Maxman is a bit of a TDM goblin, so I feel like maybe I would maybe lose to him. I'm not sure. I'd like to go up against him at some point. Maybe in the future we do a 1v1. I'd like to see that.
Okay. Talent 1v1s is just to see who would take home the bacon. Maybe we'll put that to the content team and they can decide. But you know what? Let's refocus on some 4v4s and maybe even more than that, Blank, because we are getting into match number 4 today. It's going quickly and it is going exciting as well. A Western plane path.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to bring it back because I'm going to 1v1 effect next and win easily.
Yeah, easy. I mean, I think you can do it.
Yeah, honestly, I only commentate because I couldn't find a team, but because I was that good, really. So.
Yeah. You're just too much of a you're just too talented, and everybody else is threatened by your presence. Sorry. Am I casting with Carnage now? Is this?
You're right. Yeah. I had to relegate myself to a casting position. It just wouldn't be fair on the players.
Yeah, that's right.
But heading into this one, obviously, MADBULLS, 205 points, just absolutely killing it today, doing some really good stuff. Honestly, just with the positioning that they take and the movements they make after those positionings, I think that you will see other teams within this lobby that kind of panic off the back of bad circles that don't really assist them. But for MADBULLS, there is always a way and always an opportunity when it comes to these shifts. So even if they get a hard shift towards that eastern side, they're constantly thinking about, well, how can we make this work in our favor, which is something you really do like to see. MADBULLS back on Erangel, where they tend to perform very well here. And you also have Na'Vi up towards North George. So a clash potentially on the cards with two teams being so close to each other. Never mind. It's going to head over towards that eastern side, in which case you will see MADBULLS make that quick exit from Primorsk and Quarry and zoom past farm, maybe into this circle over towards the eastern side. A little bit of a heftier parachute jump for Game War, with this plane path being all the way on that western side, does definitely promote an interesting game.
It certainly does. There's going to be interesting conflicts potentially around the central area of the map as teams try and drop on those vehicles. No one losing a player just yet, Blank. Actually, seemingly fairly isolated, but we're on board with Shockwave and the MUERTE, as Hakoni tries to hold the challenge around the corner, will do well for one. The Bison, a lot of bullets, an early game with a lack of armor. It's really devastating. It's working well. And Hakoni finds 2 against Shockwave in a solo engagement. Striker is there, sure, but you just don't want this engagement.
No, this is bad news. The MUERTE down to 2 now. Obviously being at the top spot at the beginning of the day, but suffering some pretty bad games so far and not being able to get too far in towards that Sanhok. One of the first times we've not seen them get a podium finish. Terminus is sent down. Now Striker looking for a little bit more with the M4, but only 3 bullets remaining.
Terminus downed on the off angle there. 2 players for the MUERTE as they come in with some fragging power of their own, but Dadaev now the last player standing. Can't heal off here. The MUERTE reposition their last player. That's... I don't know. I don't know if he kept the crossbow there. Not entirely sure. That would be cool to see, but no, it does go back down on the floor where it belongs in professional play for the moment. As the rest of Shockwave swell the waters.
I've seen some good plays with the crossbow before, particularly in Pachinki. I think I remember seeing like a triple with a crossbow come through. Now, both players from Shockwave will send the nades in. The first one's perfect, the second one wasn't even necessary, and that's MUERTE down in 16th place. So slowly slipping away on those rankings as teams above them start to shoot out in terms of performance.
Death Machine playing on school, or trying to leave it now, it seems. VP pretty close by. They're moving up to South Rozhok Hill. So they find the exit. There it is. No, they were just looking out that way. Okay, they're moving out to the east. I mean, fair enough. The circle pushes them that way.
4 points on the day for MUERTE. It's
good.
Not looking too hot, man, unfortunately for them. So hopefully they can bring that back a little bit. But already, you know, MADBULLS were behind them, but have shot out to a 50-point lead on the day in front of MUERTE, who were in first place. So their lead is really fallen behind now. With Na'Vi as well, 177, TJB 165, looking to keep those points healthy in this Erangel, our fourth match of the day before our last one.
See, today does seem to have gone very, very quickly, Blank. It seems like there's so much on the line, and I feel like it's just been so interesting to see how these dynamics have shifted up. And we've seen TJB be their stronger selves. We've seen their strength come on through, GK first. Surpassing, I think, pretty much everyone, especially for the Phase 3 MVP title, if not the overall one. I think there's still a long way to go for him on that title, but NFX is very, very far ahead there. But still, GK first has had a corker of a phase here. And speaking of corker being subbed in for VIRTUS.PRO, it's a lot of new, interesting dynamics.
Yeah, it's been an interesting day, that's for sure. We've seen a lot of different things coming through. Some of our top teams not quite performing how we'd hoped them to. VP certainly need to start thinking about how they want to change some of their dynamics in terms of gameplay. Hakoni here really being a star player for Shockwave. Unfortunately for MUERTE dropping on this position with next to no loot available, and by the time he's reloaded the AKM, he's already on the floor. So it's again, because of that west plane path, MUERTE's not able to get into a position that's too acceptable for themselves, and they just have to drop towards farm side. I think that they would have maybe liked to drop down towards Sosnovka, but the last time they did that, it went very poorly versus Unicorns Love. So they try something a little bit different, but instead get caught out by another team. So for MUERTE, their drop spot on this western side of the island seems to be in a little bit of conflict at the moment. They can't quite find the right backup drop that comes into effect where, you know, they don't have anyone else playing with them.
A swing around there and you roll up to VP. That's it. There's no way you get away with that. Lin goes down. TJB, get the information, sure, but we're still 15 teams alive, 59 players here. It's not ideal to lose a player that early.
Not at all. And they'll nab the vehicle for their troubles as well. So thank you very much for the delivery, sir. I think for this push in particular, it's not something that TJB were expecting. Yes, they like to expand out and try and get some more control at Erangel early on, and Take Aim Gaming currently chasing down GK first a moment with a blinder. Luckily, he's able to dip behind the ridge, but I think that is one of the vehicles, actually. It's fine, the wheels are still looking fairly healthy, but that's one getting popped out now.
The wheels on the buggy keep going round and round, it seems. Trying to get the spray down, and there's an answer. He turns it on its head. Swings it around, and the foot table is on the other shoe right now, Blank, as another spray comes through. GK first is lighting him up. Take Aim Gaming, don't know what hit him. Zittel falls, sure, but he's still going out in the open, trying to take the challenge as Toffee's spraying out towards. The position is now isolated. Xiao moving through, getting it off angle. Toffee's still trying to pepper those shots on in, but Mind is down, and they might want to isolate that spray. Toffee's repositions, and in comes the push from GK first.
I mean, for this play in particular, there's still a chance to get Zittel up, but Haj moves in quickly, but GK first finds the spray down once again. This is looking terrible for Take Aim Gaming. They thought they were the predators, but it looks like they were the prey in this instance.
GK first cyber bullies them out of the lobby. That is unfortunate for Take Aim Gaming. I mean, this is payback for their roll up in that Sanhok game, Blank. They rolled straight through Unicorns of Love and nobody died, right? So I feel like you win one, you lose one. It's fair.
I mean, you're chasing down a solo player. You think that life should be easy going forward. Unfortunately for them, GK First has got some seriously different plans, right? Able to just quickly jump out and then get a couple of knocks coming through. Again, it just goes to show, right? You see Take Aim Gaming, everyone taking shots towards GK First, and just how much better of a player GK First is than a lot of other players within this lobby when he's turned on. I think that, you know, when they switch that machine on that is GK First, you get a very, very, very different result. And I think we're only starting to see that now in Phase 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's a diesel engine, right? Sometimes temperamental, sometimes it sputters. But when it gets going, it is so hard to stop. GK First seems to have put them on the rails to victory of this phase, potentially. I mean, they're challenging out the MADBULLS right now. The MADBULLS have got a game in hand over their points total as of now. After that second chicken dinner on the day, I mean, you kind of expect that. But TJB, they have been playing very, very well. Third place, actually, for TJB at the start of this game, as Na'Vi did very, very well in that previous game. Playing on a level playing field right now, but yeah, we're looking for more from TJB. Try and chase down those MADBULLS.
Yeah, it looked like it could have gone very wrong there for them as well. Going down to just the 2 players, but really quite a big save on Zittel when it all looked lost for them. And going down to 2. With 3 players, it's certainly acceptable to play out the rest of the game and go for a high-placing finish here. Shelter seems to be very much occupied at the moment. VP up towards that northeast side, looking down towards Nexus, and Shockwave are currently playing around this spot. Quite open. A lot of the times it is just these little rocky outcrops on top of the entrances towards the underpass that is very important to take control of, and Nexus has control of at least one of them.
Got that little anchor point, but Shockwave have a few of their own. No one really doing more than jousting right now. Little spikes out, but nothing dramatic. Nothing heroic right at this stage. They tuck their capes away and send away for the hills.
A lot of teams here not quite looking for anything as of yet. Again, it is that western plane path with the heavy eastern shift on the circle that causes so many of these problems and so many of these fights early on. For TJB, it's not something they expect VP, usually playing Rozhok, to instantly send towards Mansion. That is a very much altered rotational path for them. So again, I think for TJB, this is where, you know, those heavy splits start to come into effect and where you start to think about how you need to play around the circle. For instance, you get that western plane path and you get a heavy eastern shift like this, you can't assume to take too much space within the circle anymore. You can't instantly send for Mansion if you're not already there, because more than likely there's teams that have dropped out on vehicles and they will not be going to the traditional drop spots.
Team, there's a player just on the hills to the south of them for Ruthless. They're just scouting out right now. Doing fairly solid work. Ruthless, I mean, it's a team that we, towards, I mean, the middle of Phase 2, we were talking about this team potentially even challenging Game Lord on the points totals overall for the title, right? For that top spot in terms of PMGC points. But they kind of haven't had that same sort of impact. They aren't that same team who have been standing up in that way.
Not yet. I mean, it is confusing the amount of teams that are like slipping up and down the lobby, right? We are seeing some ping-ponging going on.
Yeah.
I think for Ruthless Esports as well, this is just odd that we're not seeing that same kind of caliber of performance coming through time and time again that we saw before. Yes, they're able to find these compounds, but more often than not, I feel like they play extremely over-aggressive, but sometimes can't quite complete the initial plan, right? So you get to the compound, they get a couple of knocks, they're able to step themselves up, but then what then? That's where they start to suffer a little bit, not being able to get that additional step quite sorted yet.
Nexus lighting up Death Machine there. Sprays down onto Ultra, leaving Death Machine fairly destitute right now. 2 players standing, going in and forwards. Of course, Death Machine, the 16th place team, so ARB will be happy about that, seeing how far they can go into this one with all 4 of them alive as well. ARB have a chance to close that gap, which is all important in terms of finals qualification.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a struggle though, because even with that point gap being almost, it's like 35 points, right? You're looking at that point gap at the moment, and it still looks a little bit unattainable for a team like Arabian Champions, because Death Machine and Arabian Champions have been so destitute when it comes to getting any points within these games that there seems to be very little difference going on at the moment. Unless Arabian Champions can really step things up here, I don't really see this moving too much, John.
They have got an opportunity here. Every single point they earn on this game, if Death Machine go down on 0, is going to be a close on that gap, right? But you're right, it is not really about single game performances, it's about consistency, and it's something we haven't seen from ARB. This is GK first, turning up the heat and forcing them out the kitchen. He's the stove master now. Line up for the grill.
Yeah, someone's going to have to open a window because it was getting very steamy in there with the amount of damage that GK First is able to put through. So we're a little bit worried about this guy sometimes now going up against TJB. It's the type of dude to really thrive on momentum a lot of times, and right now he certainly has a lot of velocity coming into this phase 3. Right at the beginning as well, it's even more terrifying because he should be able to transition it through day to day, and having that happen right at the start is a blessing for TJB.
3 eliminations for TJB, losing 1 player. Currently playing on the West Hills of Prison. Nexus still holding those little rocky outcrops that you said were important to control in a circle like this. They will continue to do so, and good thing they did. Look at that shift.
Yeah, right down towards shelter itself. So this is, again, extremely open ground. There's some little snake position to play around with, getting your vehicles situated underneath and inside, but again, you can come into contact with teams down there, so you want to block those off with the vehicles early on. Arabian Champions, Jamaz, out in the open, as is Hamo. This is an awkward spot for Arabian Champions to be playing, but everyone wants to find a little bit of the pie here at shelter.
Death Machine eliminated, so go down with 1 point, so they do get a point for their troubles. ARB will have a chance to close that gap if they are able to score more than 1 point here, and you'd imagine with the position that they hold right now, they should be able to. The question is how many. MADBULLS swinging on that south side might prove to be very troublesome. This is a team you don't want to trifle with today.
Well, the streak that they've been on, MADBULLS are looking better and better, and coming down from Quarry to be able to swing in here on the circle actually works out fairly decently for them. Skills is going to move up and try and scout what he can. Modi takes shots, but it's a little bit too far away to find anything too accurate. I think right now Skills is have to be most worried about Shockwave, who are on this ridge side. Stops the engine just a little bit, gives him the old beep beep, and then we'll just dip out of here with the support from the rest of his team.
Hey, let him know. Unfortunately, Hikoni finds out all about it. Crypto learns him some. Takes him off the blockchain for now. Will be no further fungibles for him this game. I've said enough crypto babble now, and I will stop it, Blank, don't worry. On the southeast side, Unicorns of Love gonna have to swing through, and there's a lot of players in their way.
It's going to be slightly difficult to move through this massive players down towards that south side. Arabian Champions starting to just move around just a little bit. They were able to get off that hillside without too much trouble, but now Shockwave attempt to move in, but without all the information that MADBULLS were able to cover here, now Shockwave left slightly in the open. Na'Vi as well, taking shots down towards Big at the moment. Very, very close to them. This is all the way on that northern side, and now MADBULLS and Shockwave separated just by a road and a slight little ridge.
Smokes covering Shockwave's position for now, allowing the heals to start to come through, but Skills finds the angle. Spray down, and the follow-up onto Seiko. Terminus, same position, spotted. More bullets find their way on in, exactly on the mark. Very good stuff, solid performance so far from the MADBULLS. Don't expect anything less as they find their southeast side.
Honestly, for Shockwave, you can't expect Skills to allow them to get away from this one soundly. Even smokes himself off here, prepared for the other teams. Matic taking a huge amount of damage, and you think Na'Vi is almost over here. Just Meku in front, Kitsune will fall to the blue as well.
Oh, diversion. Avoids Mihi's spray, and Matic is still going out in the open. Mihi, with the foliage cover, can't quite see that push, but might not be so lucky for so long. Swave now out in the blue. Matic found finally, does get knocked by the zone, flushed out by Mihi, but in the meantime, the player from Na'Vi swings around the front. Meku out and away. The VP triple prediction. We've had nothing but triple predictions, it seems. I think the first game had 3 different predictions, but the analyst desk is completely in agreement, and look at that shift. You wonder why? I think I know.
I mean, you get that prediction coming in there from the previous circle, and then pretty much everyone's points should be secured now with that shift. I think everyone's very happy with their prediction too, heading up towards that northeast side. With Mansion now held, it's going to be difficult to move up towards the walls around this place. And if VP, with the 4 players they have, are able to succinctly lock this one down, it should be a VP win. We've had a lot of these extremely strong positions throughout the day. Na'Vi's position down towards Miramar, MADBULLS' position on the center of the circle, that compound on Sanhok. And now it's just up to these very, very efficient and well-tuned teams to just send this one out and take it home.
Ooh, Effect trying to line up the shots, hits the deck for stability, and will find the knock onto Gonzo. And as well as getting the flush, 2 from MADBULLS move on forwards to try and capitalize on Unicorn's weakened position. Moving on in across their broadside when they know that they're slowing down. I mean, this is a MADBULLS plan. This is strategy at its finest. They open the door and they storm on in with the resistance that they have weakened.
Yeah, they do need to clear out towards that northern side so then they could take up position over there, but starts to become a little bit more unlikely with the vehicles that they possess. Ooh. Goodness me, nice shots there. Will take down the remainder of Shockwave from Nexus, but VP, all their job is at the moment is to prevent as many teams getting in here as possible and trying to take out the wheels of these vehicles. And you can see MADBULLS here, this is very intelligent what they're doing. Yes, sure, they don't get the most amount of cover from the vehicles, but they place it behind the rock so VP can't shoot out the wheels, because they will need those vehicles later to make the massive crash towards VP if the circle continues to enclose on that position. So MADBULLS still thinking 5 steps ahead of everyone else in this lobby.
Excellent, excellent stuff coming through from them. They're going to allow everybody else to start to move forwards and then take the opportunity when it presents itself. They'll be watching like a hawk, I'm sure. Have to wait and see what they're able to achieve. ARB still going on that southwest side, diminished in forces, only 2 of them remain. Right next to TJB, they have the attention turned their way now. Just Jamaz on that mad dash across, right into the compound for VP. I don't think you're going to go much further. Is there cover there for Jamaz? I think they might have found something, but XTEAM and NEXUS going to have something to say, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you have the wall on the outside of Mansion, so Jamaz can get up and beside that wall. You can see Chulika here looking out towards that side. Corker will find Robs off towards the northeast. Currently, MADBULLS looking to continue to put the pressure towards Game Lord. Really, MADBULLS don't have to move too much at the moment. They want it to be quiet when they move into the circle.
TJB spotted by Nexus, and a knock and a flush very, very swift on the south side. Nexus will have to push soon. XTEAM smoking up and making sure that they can get these reses, keep themselves as alive as possible. Nexus, 10 eliminations right now, southwest side, trying to rack up more as well. But VIRTUS.PRO seemingly this insurmountable bastion right in the center of this next circle.
Yeah, very, very difficult to move up towards Mansion. There's so many angles to mess around with here, so many places you have to deal with. I think the scariest thing for VP, though, is they've not been able to take down enough teams around the lobby or at least injure them. So you have 2 4-man teams here who could make a great crash on towards you. Nice shots from both from Mercy through the smoke. Here's the vehicle moving up, and now all Yankee has to do is send these grenades over the top.
Doesn't have too many left in the back pocket, and XTEAM can start to put them back in through the windows as well, so they do need to be careful. Beg for Mercy falls. It's really good news for VIRTUS.PRO to hold out the western side, but they cannot afford to give too much attention here. Luckily for them, NEXUS and MADBULLS are fighting out on the south to make that crash on the other side. Andy is down here. XTEAM suffering fairly heavily. Jamaz is still alive, by the way, Blank.
Yeah, chilling on that side. I mean, no one else is on the western side of the map with him, so he can comfortably sit here for as long as possible. But again, you highlighted it. VP is using a ton of utility right now to deal with XTEAM, not knowing that there is 2 4-man teams fully ready for a push onto this position. Now, NEXUS don't have all the vehicles available that MADBULLS currently have, so they'll get into spot very, very fast. But I think MADBULLS, they'll wait on this. They have time to try and take out the remaining members of NEXUS before they make this push over towards VP. And I'm scared, John. I'm scared that this could be another MADBULLS chicken dinner because I don't think VP is going to be ready for it.
They still have 4 players and they've still got guns, Blank. I mean, MADBULLS, to be fair, have been in a lot of engagements, so maybe their only hope is that they're low on ammo. XTEAM do go down, and VIRTUS.PRO have actually got a foothold on the outside. NEXUS getting rolled down in the meantime as MADBULLS move over this hilltop, trying to put the back-to-back on the table, and they are absolutely tucking those napkins into the lapel.
You know what, John? It's quiet. And now this is the time when MADBULLS can maybe move back to the vehicles and make the push in. But VP, they've shown that hand too early. They're on the outside, and MADBULLS take the shots. They find one, and this is a perfect opportunity for them now. They abandon the vehicles, knowing with the res in play, this gives them time to move up just with smokes on board.
Jamaz is still there, and to be fair, it should be fairly difficult for MADBULLS to know this position. There's no reason for them to have figured out there's a player there. They'll know there's more than one full team, so they'll probably think there's a snake somewhere, so maybe they'll be on the lookout.
Skills behind the buggy, just watching out. Waiting for that res to come through, taking a little while, but in the meantime, the rest of MADBULLS know that they don't have to push that far out. The circle moves away from Mansion, and now it's time to find some hard cover. And there is certainly rocks to play around with here, and VP will have to move over towards them. You see here on the backside of the Mansion as well, facing towards MADBULLS, there aren't any windows to mess around with for MADBULLS either. So cover is going to be fairly limited, and they'll have to use smokes to move up to some rocks, to some tree lines. But MADBULLS, look, they have the lineup. This is a firing squad ready to go.
It's difficult to find angles to peek. I mean, Corker versus Monkey might be an isolated fight if VP can find it, but Corker is also fairly isolated and needs to reposition, so that should come on through fairly soon, and you can see MADBULLS folding back in. They retract the end of that line, and Skills fling straight through the middle. Excellent movement there from MADBULLS, and that's the vehicles that you talked about, Blank.
Yeah, they have one, and in comes the rest as well. Look towards Corker. Again, Jamaz can be a big problem. Corker, the feet are spotted. Jamaz does go down, so Effect spots him. Now, that is the big problem eliminated, and Jamaz can't cause any more problems now for MADBULLS. Nades now available, just tossing him into the smoke, regular locations where players might be holding. This becomes very hard for VP.
They need to get the drop on a player or two. Monkey is low already, but Tuluka goes down fully. Old boy tagged by that nade. Do they think there's another player? Skills is probably going to find out with that nade. They'll know there's one more to deal with, and Old boy has handled. Effect out wide, sprays down for the flush. Yankee now, last player for VP, steps out, jumps over the car, no gun in hand, and what are you going to do there? Try and pop that first aid, sure, but and comes Skills with the plan. Oh, Skills jumps over the vehicle. He's in through the door, and he serves it up hot. What a way to close the game. MADBULLS, 3 on the day, a back-to-back chicken dinner, and it's a pan to get the kill.
The ninja coming through the window with a pan. Yeah, it may be not the best assassination in terms of equipment, but he makes it happen regardless. Again, though, you can't understate, because of how silly that ending was, you can't understate how intelligent the rest of the game was from MADBULLS. Even sending the vehicles and lining them up in such a way in that V formation behind that rock to hold on to as many wheels as possible so they couldn't get popped out by VP, which should have been their prime objective to make sure teams couldn't crash on towards them. Then you see the push from XTEAM, and VP, with a weakened team outside, you don't have to get all those elimination points. You don't have to use all that utility. All the while, MADBULLS is slowly sweeping towards the backside of Mansion, takes down NEXUS, and then places themselves in a position where there's no windows to play from Mansion, so they can't see out towards them, which forces VP then to push towards them. Again, another shift of plans. They don't need to take the vehicles anymore because the circle moves away from Mansion on their side. At that point, it was basically a free victory as soon as we saw that circle shift down towards the south, towards MADBULLS. Again, it's just intelligent play from them. I don't know. I don't know what the coaching is going on behind the scenes, but whoever is doing it and whoever is giving the calls in game is such a smart lad. The brains on these guys.
The macro decisions they're making are really strong. You talked about keeping those vehicles alive, thinking 5 steps ahead, but even the engagement micro is really, really strong as well. Folding that player back in, rolling them around the back, and then striking out through is really solid, like in terms of who needs to move, when you need to move, establishing that position. It's just, it's an absolute symphony going on for MADBULLS right now. They have a back-to-back chicken dinner. They filled their 4 chicken dinner quota for the phase. They are on a roll. Can they be stopped? We'll only have to find out in the last game of the day.
Well, MADBULLS will be stopped at least in the last match because they're not playing the last match here. So that will be MADBULLS stopped by the quota of matches they're allowed to play in a day. So technically, they were stopped here. But MADBULLS, I mean, we all picked VP. We forgot MADBULLS are still alive. To be fair, VP did have a decent position, especially when the zone moved right after our predictions. But then we forgot it's MADBULLS.
I mean, yeah. Okay, look, we could talk about MADBULLS and how they play this game every single time. Like, VIRTUS.PRO, sure, send their players north. I do not think it was a bad play, personally. I think it was a necessary play. You had 2 teams banking on the northern side of that position. You have to defend it. And even with 4 players, they got, I think, 1 or 2 players knocked. They had to do that move. Then, of course, the circle goes down south. MADBULLS, though, you give them a small opportunity like that, instantly take position, take all of the different angles. You can't escape them. Like, VIRTUS.PRO had to make a decision, and they just have a slight amount of time where you can just backstab them, get a great position on the next circle, and MADBULLS take it because they're so quick to react every single time. Yeah, it's how do you beat MADBULLS? That's the question. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I say everyone's got red on them, and MADBULLS is charging them down. This is a bit ridiculous. Blank was talking about it just before as well, in terms of, like, you know, who is their coach? What's going on? I mean, I'm gonna break faux pas here. They have a guy called PUBGMOBILE, who I know from other battle royales, and he played for teams like Na'Vi, right? This guy understands PUBG Mobile. This guy understands the game, and having that kind of mind behind already excellent players as well. It's a winning formula. Look at what they've done today, Jason. It is unbelievable.
I mean, on what they've done today, and you pointed this out while we were watching the match, they've won 3 out of their 4 matches, 75% win rate. I think John was saying they average 4 chicken dinners when it comes to a phase. Yeah. Well, they've already beat their average, and they might create a new average for themselves. And the question will be, like always, who can stop them? Is it going to be a team in PMGC? Because that's what it's looking like at the moment. Yeah. If even they can do it. I
just checked also the stats for MVP of today. Out of the top 5 MVP contenders of the day, all 4 of the players on MADBULLS are there. They're in 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th currently. And GKFS is in the middle there for TJB. But wow. Yeah.
The thing is, when you look at these highlights as well, there's a reason to a degree why we picked VIRTUS.PRO, right? We all picked VP. Like, this wasn't as clean cut as the previous games where we're like, okay, we're sure it's going to be Na'Vi. We're sure it's going to be MADBULLS. This one, I love this. This was brilliant. But, like, this compound for VIRTUS.PRO was fantastic. I think they flexed out a little too far, trying to hold off some of the teams coming from them from alternate angles. You've got to be cautious about, especially the MADBULLS angle, because eventually there's going to be a team there, but their transition from that location is not easy. So technically, you could potentially shut that down as it's kind of approaching, but MADBULLS plays it so smart. They play it patiently, smart, move around on the edge, and, you know, are able to get yet another win.
You see these last 2 finishes too, right? The game on Sanhok, they're throwing flashbangs, trying to get some cool finishes. Here, they're going with the pan. The thing is it's not even forced. This is just coming, like, naturally to them, I have the impression. You throw them these circles every time, they're doing it without even a second thought. And I feel it's going to take some time before they start meeting a real challenge, because this lobby, it's just too easy.
I didn't think they would get better for the first phase, you know, in third phase. I thought that maybe they would taper off a little bit or just maintain the status quo, but they're just continuing to improve. And we need to take a look at their player stats on the day as well, just to really show you how much impact they have had. 16 limbs for effect, 10 for Zerich, 9 for Monkey, 9 for skills.
How do you get 16 on a day? What?
How do you get this many across the team, right? It's like, we said it before, it's not just having a foundation of a team, it's having every building block in place. Everybody is playing a crucial role. Be it, you know, kind of when they're flexing out as a 1-1-1-1 split, as they're repositioning vehicles to make sure that people can transition on Sanhok across roads, be it this patient push on the edge of the map. It's so good, so good.
Even you go back to that Sanhok match, right? Effect and Zerich were both knocked in that finishing circle, and Monkey and Skills stepped up. They fragged out, they cleared the space, went for the res. Even when the two top fraggers, MVP contenders of this entire PMPL are down, the two players that are not even fraggers in the first place are there to fill in that role to step up and bring the entire team back in. So yeah, even when they're looking like on the brink of extinction, boom, they're back in, and they go for the win.
44 limbs on the day for them. I think some teams struggle to have 44 limbs across like 3 or 4 days total. I don't know what to say about them other than they are the CCT. They are the ALT. I had to think of what the letters were for that one, Max. I'm sorry. Let's take a look, though, at another team. We obviously have to turn our attention towards some other contenders. VIRTUS.PRO, let's take a look at their player stats in this last match because, again, they did have some decent positions. They were doing decently well. And we can see, I mean, you know, Korka, we don't normally see him on the roster. Actually comes in with 4 limbs.
Yeah, it's normally always been seen a little bit of Teleka, Yankee. I mean, Old Boy, don't even have to talk about Old Boy. He's always there, able to step up if he has a wall, of course, as known Kalaris. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that we've seen another player step up here, Korka. As I said, I don't think it was a bad play, them going north. I think it was a necessary move they had to make. There was 2 teams banking on their location. If they allow them to push in, you're pinched between MADBULLS south and 2 other teams north, potentially one if they eliminate one another. It was a necessary move, but then, as we said, the step up from MADBULLS were good. But the macro, you can't disagree and say the VIRTUS.PRO had a bad play. That was still a good execution.
Yeah, to play as devil's advocate to exactly what you're saying here, because obviously I'd said prior, you know, I didn't really like the flex out to try and hold that off to a certain degree at the same time, as you say, covering what is Hall of Fame Hall, whatever you want to call this location, is difficult because the windows are a bit wonky to actually play around. There's not really much in terms of you can play around in terms of the doors as well. They don't give you huge lines of sight, so sometimes you have to move out to the walls to try and cover some of these angles. So I completely understand why they do it. It's just obviously we're the eyes in the sky and we kind of see everything.
That is true. We are the eyes in the sky. Let's take a look at the overalls, though, before we do head into our final match of the day. Remember, after this match, we only have 2 days left in total for teams to get as many points as possible to get into the finals or to give themselves a lead in the finals. And MADBULLS, yeah, I mean, let's be honest, that's a 50-point lead practically. That's expected after how dominating they've been today.
That's ridiculous. You know, MADBULLS logo is supposed to be, I guess, like a bull looking around, and that's kind of its tail. It looks like the Thinker. You know the statue, the Thinker? Where it's just
yes. Oh, it's got his little...
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I got you. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, that's got nothing to do with it. Sorry, Jason. Continue.
No, I don't want to continue now. I want to focus more on this.
I want to focus on MUERTE only getting 4 points today. You know,
that is rough.
So we talked about consistency. Consistency at the bottom. I think 1 point per game right now. So, yeah, I mean, it happens to everyone to have one really bad day. I think especially when MADBULLS stepped up this way. VP, Navi are doing good, but that could happen in the finals, and if you have a day like that in the finals, that could really hurt your chances of making a championship. It's not top 16 championship, it is only top 8, so they went to go be a little bit careful because the guys at the top are not messing around.
Yeah, not messing around. I mean, MADBULLS, at this rate, they're going to win almost every single chicken dinner when it comes to the finals when we eventually get there. But we do have only a few seconds left until we head into our final match of the day. It's going to be on in Miramar, and we'll be back on tomorrow, of course, for another 5 matches. Let's throw it over to John and Blink, though, to take us away here into our final match of Day 4 of Phase 3.
We are going in. One more game today, Blank. The MADBULLS have laid down the gauntlet, and frankly, I don't think anyone's going to be able to match that one today. However, we've got plenty of other teams who are going to be looking for those points to slurp on up and try and add to their totals for those bonus points going into the finals, because the higher you place, the more points you get going into the finals.
Yeah, it's a mad dash at the moment, right, for a lot of these teams towards the end of the series. And just quickly to bring something up, I know they're not playing the game, but MADBULLS right now are currently sat 891. in the PMGC points rankings. They are underneath Unicorns alone. It's sixth place. They're currently 7th. This is ridiculous. I can't believe we're seeing them here right now. But I thought that was just an interesting tidbit. The amount of points they've been able to put up through this season is absolutely phenomenal. And again, 233 points at the end of day 1 of phase 3. Come on, this might be another record set in terms of the points placed for phase 1. It's for a phase. Last time they were to set the standard for 306 in the first phase, and I think they're in a position to surpass that over the next couple.
Well, I mean, they've got, how is it? They've got 8 games remaining, right? So if they can break 73 points in 8 games, it's doable. And absolutely you're right, they are in a position where they are doing that. I mean, you look at today, they were able to have obviously massive standout games that swept away pretty much everybody else in terms of the averages, but they are putting up those averages even when they're not winning, right? They're getting average 7 to 10 point games fairly consistently, and that's what you're going to be looking for.
Honestly, you look at it as well right now, and I think that this is now becoming more of a fight for second place in phase 3. Na'Vi's currently there, holding it in second with 181. TJB behind them with 173. So although Na'Vi has been somewhat quiet, they're still putting up those numbers at the moment. I think come finals, there could definitely be a shake-up there between them and MADBULLS. I'd be curious to see how this does even out. Obviously, when we look towards the first phase, landing in 10th place for Na'Vi, that definitely hurt their chances in terms of the overalls and in terms of their bonus points. But second week, taking it with 303 points in first place. Now they're looking for a little bit more here. So definitely a contender when it comes to that finals, and not down and out yet. But we just haven't seen that same proficiency that we see from MADBULLS, from Na'Vi at the moment. Getting caught out on these awkward side pushes is becoming a bit of an issue for them. Albeit, I will say that at the moment, for Erangel, MADBULLS have one of the easiest rotations to make through from Primor's past XTEAM, and then they can just kind of take their pick of the circle of where they want to go. Similarly on Sanhok at the moment, Paradise Resort is just, because they are such a good team, Paradise Resort being a strong position on the map, they are able to take that to the next level, right?
Yeah, it's incredible performance coming through from MADBULLS. If ARB can take down Death Machine, they can close that gap. Obviously, with Jamaz winning,
stop it, Job.
Coming third. I'm going to talk about their overall standings right now. I'm not going to talk about them.
No, I know.
Doing what they're doing.
I'm saying stop that.
It's very naughty.
You bring it up every game, but I don't think things are changing, dude.
It seems to keep closing. I mean, Jamaz came 3rd place in that last game. That's 10 points.
That's the 10 points, and I think that's the only 10 points.
Yeah, still close to
Actually, it is their only 10 points of the day. That is painful.
That's pain. But they still got one more chance.
Okay.
Muddy Ken. Not going to be given another chance at that spray. MUERTE move for cover. And Max was talking only 4 points on the day for MUERTE. So actually, ARB have out-earned MUERTE today.
That's true. I mean, I was surprised by that, honestly. Dropped down to 5th place. And you're kind of squandering a day here by not getting any points. And being a team like MUERTE, that is rough, man, because this is not a bad team whatsoever. But they have been kind of jilted by a lot of these circle shifts, a lot of these playing paths, and forced into these weird engagements at the beginning of games where they really don't want to. And again, here on Miramar, they're having a similar problem.
I'll have to change it up if they want different results. MUERTE, though, they're still all alive, as are QODEX. This is an early engagement, so utility, helmets, armor, meds, that sort of stuff is going to be lacking on both sides as they slowly start to gather, pick the bushes clean.
QODEX looking for as many off angles as possible. I think that versus a team like this, obviously you're not entirely sure who you're playing against. For MUERTE, the best idea for them would just be to leave this, and looks like you are having to Striker coming in with the party bus to pick up the rest of the players. Money Ken spots this, but Striker's away.
Wants more of it though, as the position, but falls away yet again. Did get spotted. I think QODEX slowed down because of that. It was isolated on the fight. Can't really afford to take a knockout in a position like this in these early engagements, so fair enough. You don't want to be super aggressive when you're not playing as a bulldozer unit, all 4 of you together.
MUERTE with some great crouches, by the way, and even hitting the deck when he needed to. I think he remained hidden that entire time. Michu finds Striker, and now MUERTE can start to close that position over towards Striker's way.
Try and open those routes. MUERTE wants to draw another player out potentially to expose their side and allow the rest of QODEX to go for these shots. I mean, it works. Woodson, nice nade in through, banks it perfectly off the wall on English Falls. MUERTE gonna have one of their worst days so far in this entire tournament. Shut down by QODEX.
Yeah, QODEX is just not letting up at all here. Striker still crawling. MUERTE, as we said before, starts to pin this position down. Now they're beset on all sides, and for MUERTE, limited medication, limited healing. There's really not much else they can do. Flyke immediately has to turn.
Does find the shot, does get the spray onto Woodson, takes minimal damage for it. The boosters are acting in his favor as well. MUERTE, position spotted known. Spray with the UMP potential. Flashbang on out, actually, and fully whites out Flick on the push. We'll have to figure something out. MUERTE fully repositions onto the outside. Darev and Flick gonna move on in. As MUERTE now has protection from the rest of QODEX. They move it around, they turn the tables on it. Position still known. Spray up, hops up, good. But not gonna be able to get the knocks that they were looking for just yet. Darev is on the outside, and somehow MUERTE is still going, Blank.
I mean, it's a really strong little flashbang as well because it completely fakes them out to the position. Now Flyke, absolutely no meds. I think he just about picked up some bandages there, and we'll try and get those through, but MUERTE now starts to make his push in.
Ooh, nearly getting the shot there, but just fades it, unfortunately. Nice new haircut, though. As he tucks behind the door, very, very close by. Sprays, not quite landing on the jump shot there. Backs up, gets some healing done.
For MUERTE, this fight is going on for a while. You respect the play from MUERTE as well to try and isolate this singular player, but that flashbang really just put everything to the wind there. Everything they tried to accomplish was completely taken away by the flashbang, limits the sight, limits the hearing as well, so you don't know which side that MUERTE is headed towards. And now, in a way, you almost have the shepherd of MUERTE who has caught these 2 players now in a trap.
Darev low HP. Likely no meds on board. Yeah, look, basically, well, absolutely nothing, really. Level 1 helmet vest. Weak as anything. Can't get spotted. Reposition from MUERTE as he tries to move on forward. Wants to move on up. Finish it how he started. Spray in, it's good for 1. That was Darev, who was super, super low. Flushed almost immediately. Then MUERTE taken down. They finally bite the dust, and that will be QODEX picking up 4 points.
Slow and steady there. I mean, QODEX have multiple times taken these engagements where they start off strong, but they take it a little bit too aggressively at the end and lose a few players, in which case, you know, the rest of their game is a little bit hindered by the amount of players they still have on board. This time, much more cautious with the amount of meds that they had on board. I was really, really impressed by that from them to really keep this one going. Again, MUERTE definitely star of the show, though, with that pincer maneuver and then able to hold his own whilst the rest of his team gets in position to help him out.
Mazzaro sprays towards TJB's rotation. Works well. Shao has some cover from it as well. ARB go down. That was in the Picardo scuffle. Death Machine. Hey, they keep all 4 of themselves alive. Look at that.
Yeah, surprising stuff, but, you know, Arabian champions not able to close that gap.
Oh, no.
Which is a surprise for me, obviously.
Wow, yeah. So it seems it. Can't believe that you bring that up right at the start.
Yeah, 100%.
It's totally you and nobody else. Nobody else.
Losing...
Romanian men, Eastern Stars. Let's move on. please.
It's all good. Yeah, I know. I don't know what you're doing. GK first. Obviously being taken down there, a bit of a problem. Get Wrecked has a light show on the back of his backpack there. Don't like that. It's flashbang in of itself.
Eastern Stars, nade up the top. Will find Get Wrecked, and that evens things up. Athis getting res this whole time should give Eastern Stars the lead on this engagement. Momentum in their favor as heals can start to come through, so that maybe slows them down just a little bit before Romanian men have damaged their own to recoup. Looks like they want to pull back just that little bit. They still haven't rezzed on Get Wrecked, but the smokes bloom, and Eastern Stars can start to move up. Kapahala swinging low out on that left-hand side. You can see him. Andre might look for the challenge here, but he's more preoccupied with Keme and Bazzi up the top of the hill. Athis, nade in hand. Off angle found as well. Eastern Stars want to swell this fight around. Get Wrecked down. Rana repositioned. And another nade from Athis is ready and raring to come in. There's one from the backstop as well. Eastern Stars are controlling this fight nicely. Kapahala, position, spotted. Andre takes a couple of shots, fades back away behind the hard cover, but the nades continue to pour in. Rana's super low now and falls off behind the hill. The rest of 4 Romanian men trying to draw Eastern Stars into a disfavorable position.
They're trying to leave. I mean, Kapahala was playing a good position on that left side, looking from 4 Romanian men's perspective, just so they couldn't leave down the hill. Andre does get knocked out of the vehicle from Athis. Rana below, looking to maybe get some heals.
We'll be able to pop them as Athis moves on forwards. They should be aware of a player there. Maybe he heard a footstep or two. Rana sprayed down. Further down the hill, though. Alawi, the last player for 4 Romanian men now. 3 first aids, bit of armor. Should be all right to survive a little bit longer, but Eastern Stars will know exactly where this player holds.
They don't have to push it too much right now. They're in a good position within the circle. Potentially can even wrap down towards the south side, Los Leones, as we head further down towards the south. Big in an engagement between Game Lord and themselves. TJB suffered in that fight also with Big there. And again, it's that thing that I brought up earlier with GK first going down so early. It's like, this is really the time for the rest of the team to step up and try and get themselves a decent game. But with Zittel going down, now just Lin and Xiao to try and take the rest of this game for themselves, it's going to be difficult. Na'Vi moved down south very quickly this time around. They didn't want to get caught on the outside between Big and Game Lord. They performed well on Miramar so far, and now they're looking for another central position on the map.
Looks like they might find it with a shift. Out to the west, covering some of Chumacera Hills. On that southeast side, Pioneer can potentially move on in there. Pioneer with not the greatest day today. They have slipped just that little bit. I've said I wanted to see a little bit more consistency from them. Currently sat with the most confirmed bonus points in this lobby, and we haven't seen that from them so far. They've gone down a little bit too early for my liking. Hopefully they'll close out the day strong.
That's the hope. That's the idea. Vichu moving up. QODEX still a fairly decent position over towards that northwest side at the moment. Still within the circle though, which is nice for them, but Na'Vi now looking for another win here. I think they're the only other team to get a win today over the MADBULLS, unfortunately, but it would be an insane day if we see Na'Vi get the final chicken dinner and MADBULLS get the rest.
A 2-player day. I don't think have we ever seen a 1-player day on 5 games on these group formats? One team day, sorry. I don't think we have. I don't even think we've seen a 2-team day yet. So it would be quite miraculous to see that one come through. Would be lovely.
I think there was a long time ago in it was the European Championships, I believe, where we saw Kanina Power get 4 on one day. Well, that was about as good as it gets.
I think you're right, which would imply a 2-team day that we've seen.
Yeah.
Because only one other team could have won. Yeah, I think you're right. But it is still a remarkable performance for MADBULLS in a lobby that has a lot of strength as well. It's not like these teams just fall over.
Not at all. This is not an easy lobby. A couple of replays here from Game Lord who are doing some work towards that northern side. Still with 4 players on board as well, with Big going down to 3. They did move ahead of them. Big has 1 player behind in Mozero, might be able to take some shots up towards Game Lord and at least weaken the team as they push towards the 2 remaining members actually in the circle for Big.
Moving on up, 3 players alive, Game Lord. Still trying to push through. Not going fast. The backstop, Mazzaro. Covered off. So it's kind of a two-phase fight. It's tricky. Unicorns are love. They're descending the hill here, but they have an outpost towards the big Game Lord engagement. They might try and send a little bit further north, but either way, they don't want to get embroiled in the Eastern Stars combat with this circle.
TJB actually have a very good position here, but with only 2 players, it's unlikely they'll hold this for very long. And I think for Na'Vi, this would be a great time for them to actually send across and take that ridge side. Yeah, so we're going to see them move up. There is also that compound underneath. Kitsune gets taken down on the cross, though. Luckily, he's in cover. Depends if he can get behind the wall in time for the rest of the team to back up there. The other 2 players, will move now towards that position. So doing it in 2 stages is pretty decent, so you don't get the double raz. QODEX actually take Woodson. So Woodson will fall there. Pioneer also taking shots.
They're trying to push on into the compound with Na'Vi, and it's really not going well for either of these 2 teams. Havlik last standing and will be put to sleep there. Kitsune will be rezzed as well, and Na'Vi can hold us 4 as a single position on this junction. This is a solid set of buildings for them.
Yeah, this is a really good spot for Na'Vi.
That's solid.
Many triple predictions today coming through. And again, this is a nice position to play from, with TJB being up towards that north side and only being a 2-man team. Now, Na'Vi can really take the extent of control that they will find from this compound and be able to play around with it. I would be extremely happy to see Na'Vi win this one, showing their dominance over on Miramar. It's crazy to see, you got MADBULLS who are dominant there on Erangel, and then Na'Vi much better in this kind of open playing field on Miramar itself.
Ooh, that's not good. A self-burn there on Unicorns and a player getting knocked on the back. 2 players now on this roll-up. 2 Big's position. Big playing with the 2, so that has evened the score a little bit. Mihi, close to the corner. Icy tries to pre-nade it. Takes a little bit of damage himself as Beast swings out wide and low around the ridgeline. Trying to dance around. Happy feet. Icy around for the challenge, but low HP gives him a disadvantage. Unfortunately for Beast, it's not going to be quite enough to close things down. The blue zone, I think, will isolate the 2 players remaining. Mihi spotted out. Unicorns will move forwards with 2, but they will move forwards nonetheless.
Yeah, losing 2 players there on what should have been an easy push towards Big is mega unfortunate. All they had to do was just hold the players from Big out on that side. They didn't have to take the fight all the way towards them. And because they do that and some unfortunate circumstances occur, they lose 2 players, which I really don't think they had to lose to take down the remaining players of Big. I think when you're moving into the 4th zone, playing on the edge like that, right on the edge as the zone is about to shift in, that's a situation where maybe you back off, drop some smokes, and just hold a team on the edge there.
Game Lord have the remnants of Unicorns on their eastern side. 2 players out there. Crypto just about in the circle, I think, in this next one. So after it closes, he will be there, but will need to move after that. Hops out, hops back in, thinks better of it. Icy swinging out through the blue, wants to move a little bit closer and a little bit safer. Game Lord starting their train. They'll want to slinky back up together further towards the south. The next circle soon to pop.
See where that one does head. Down towards that south side. So QODEX still have a good position there. A lot of high ground to mess around with. But I think for Na'Vi, you can see the problems that come with this circle. Yeah, you can move down towards the south side and cross the road and maybe try and take the high ground that is on the west side of the circle. But it's so open, so barren space as well. So a lot of teams up towards that north that might be moving down. VP on the western side might be able to take shots at you. So you're struggling a little bit now if you're Na'Vi. And I think a lot of this becomes almost a waiting game for a lot of these teams because it doesn't really favor anyone. QODEX isn't particularly happy about this, but they would hope to get some eliminations, some knocks in this circle. But who's going to come close? No one cares about this position anymore.
It's very tricky, but everyone's going to have to try and find a way to get in as long as possible. 10 teams still remain blank. We imagine that number's going to fall pretty sharply. Team Doom up the top of the hill, losing players fairly swiftly. 2 of them remaining. SHOCKWAVE will have to push in. time will be a great equalizer of these teams on the eastern side. VIRTUS.PRO, potential on that western side.
Yeah, real potential for them if they can move down into position. Again, a lot of this will come into effect of just a long, drawn-out match, honestly, for these guys. I don't think anyone wants to move as of yet. No, there's not really favorable position towards the center here. And it will be a case of being forced to move towards that high ground down towards the south side. Again, if QODEX get another shift down towards the southwest, they're in one of the best spots in the lobby to take a chicken dinner. Yankee slowly moving up towards them, though. Again, a little bit interesting, perhaps looking for a couple more knocks.
Okay, Game Lord trying to sail straight on past Na'Vi from the northern side. They lose Narvallo in the process. But Tixi does get knocked by Take Aim Gaming. They find that opportunity, and they will take it. Tixi potentially resable here. Now, you can see them repositioning on the map. But he is low. He's bleeding out fast as well. Need to be careful. He's right on the top there. Super, super low. I don't think they get him.
No, he will just bleed out, and I think that teammates were desperately trying to find the way up, but I think getting up there takes a little bit of a weird turn. You have to make some interesting movements. And in the meantime, when they're pre-focused on Game Lord, takes a bit more damage, and now Tixi's just out. So down to 3 players for Na'Vi. Really not a good look for them.
Look at how pushed out everybody is to the circle, Blank. There's no one really holding center position. All of these engagements need to conclude in order for people to start moving. That's going to take a little bit of time. The next circle pops south.
This is surprisingly good for QODEX. They still have that outpost right on the southwest side that they can play from, taking shots down towards teams, and also gives them a position to just hold. Na'Vi now, like you say, it's time to conclude this engagement. Meku gets caught out by Robs, who's been really, really good for the team. And it's been Victor one season, then it was Narvallo. This season it's Robs.
He's been on fire, but can he shut down the rest of Na'Vi? Victor gets the spray down onto Matic. Now Kitsune on the back. Last player standing for Na'Vi. And not in the fight at all. Not going to be in this engagement. Na'Vi left high and dry there. Kitsune on the back. Game Lord will have to move. QODEX, they lose a player. PNL, the VIRTUS.PRO, I mean, you rotate on the open, you expect that to happen. Behind the ridgeline, they're still low.
I mean, it could have gone anywhere else but this, but it's just open ground underneath here. If you're Shockwave or Team Doom, you have pretty good sight lines down towards below. 2 players still in vehicles at the moment for VP, just try and head underneath, but QODEX has just got full oversight, and this is what we were talking about earlier.
Kitsune goes down on the northern side. They just take these shots down. What can you do? I mean, QODEX have to win this. If they can't, then it's everything I know about PUBG Mobile is out the window, Blank. PNL even on the off angle to watch for the remnants of VP pushing up on their back left. It's solid positioning from QODEX. It's a fairly simple decision to make, but they made the right one.
I think everyone else is making terrible decisions right now, honestly. I don't know why you would try and send it underneath here. The rest of Game Lord had the right idea, which is to send it up towards the northwest side and play in here, because eventually the circle will move away from QODEX. And if it doesn't, yeah, it's a free win for QODEX, but you knew that was coming, so you just try and take as many points as possible. But as soon as it moves away from here, they will have to dip down off the ridge side, and then shots could be taken. Game Lord with 4 there could have just sat equally as easily with Victor and Akashi. They didn't have to send in towards VP's position. I think this was overall a pretty horrendous game in terms of mistakes from teams.
Victor and Akashi playing for Game Lord. QODEX spot it, vehicle goes up in smoke, Zero hits the deck and hits the dust there after. Team Doom eliminated in 3rd place. Solo for Game Lord will remain against 4 from QODEX as they descend from up on high. They deign to visit those down below. Victor still doing a little bit, but the next circle will come through. Tries to pop some shots to Woodson, does so successfully, but the backline will be suppressed. MONEYKEN is in for the close range fight. Victor wants the challenge and will lose it out. MONEYKEN closes the game, and it is QODEX to take the chicken dinner. What a compound for them to be able to finish day 4 of phase 3.
I mean, this doesn't happen if you don't have that tiny little bit of a lip of overhang that they're able to play around with that circle. Right. I think everyone was just massively put out with the amount of hardships during that game. It's impossible to play. I would hate to be a player in that situation because no matter what you take, no matter what you do, realistically, that position that QODEX held had no value for most of these circles because most teams assume for it to just move away from that spot, they would have to head down. Even when it had that little lip though, there was teams with like 4 players which I felt like did not have to make the same push that VP did. VP had no choice other than to move away from that western side in vehicles and try and find a spot underneath the ridge, but they get taken down. On the other hand, other teams, they could have held on the outside of the blue, inside the circle, and just held vehicles there and survived for long enough for QODEX to have to jump down the ridge, then you take shots. I don't understand it, John.
QODEX make it work, and we are going to go back over to the desk for the final time today.
Well, our first group prediction not faring too well here, as we didn't seem to know that QODEX was going to be the winning team here. But you know what? QODEX able to close things out, do some decent damage as well, showing that there's other teams out there besides the CIS region who can do some work, or at least besides MADBULLS, I should say, that can do some work. Let's take a look at the match ranking here so you get an idea of how many points the teams did get. But honestly, I think, you know, Colaris, you and I we're pretty certain QODEX wasn't going to win it. However, those shifts and Game Lord punishing our pick really punished us overall.
I mean, Church is one of the strongest vantage points in that circle for quite a while. Even just kind of looking at the rest of the lobby, if the circle shifts away from them, then they would have to make a transition. It would be a bit catastrophic. It's very open from there. But the fact that they just get, you know, it shifts south, and then once that happens, everybody has to try and move towards Church.
Yeah.
That is unbelievably difficult. So QODEX here, it's good that they got the conversion off of this, because it should be expected when you have Church position like this.
It's not even Church position, I would say. For the teams north and the teams over to the east, if you wanted to get even remotely close to Church, you had to cross roads. Technically, you had roads up on the northern side, roads on the eastern side also. It was just a barrage of just bad terrain and teams above you if you wanted to make it into the circle itself. VP had a chance to make it because they were already on that side of the circle at the time, so no need to cross all these roads or these harsh terrains. They were already in that spot in the first place. But as you said, Church, great overhang position. You can just spray down from that position. There's no really good hiding spot to dodge that spot. So yeah. I mean, QODEX, sure, they had a good position and they survived as a 4-man crew, so pretty much a given game at the end.
I can see here as well. I mean, Na'Vi having some decent plays at the very end. VIRTUS.PRO just getting punished, but at least Game Lord were able to step up here. They've been quiet for, it feels like, such a long time yet again.
Yeah, they seized the position from Na'Vi effectively. I mean, Na'Vi had a great compound for quite a while, but the fact that Game Lord kind of came in on the circle side of them and then was able to take that fight so strongly against them, it puts Na'Vi in a pinch. What can you do as Na'Vi there when you're being pressured by the blue? You're kind of trapped a little bit, and Game Lord are proficient fighters. We've just not been able to see too much of it throughout this tournament. But Miramar's slowly leveling up for Game Lord. It used to be one of their wheelhouses, and we're seeing them survive to later stages once again here in Miramar.
Yeah, at least the teams were safe somewhat this game because MADBULLS was not playing. So, yeah, otherwise, probably another one, to be completely honest.
Oh.
So, well, it's done, okay.
I mean, that was the potential, right? We were asking ourselves if MADBULLS played out a 5th match, what would have happened? And, well, you know what? I don't think they really need any more points, to be honest. I think they can let some other people have some chicken dinners on the day. But MVP. Max, you talked about 4 out of 4 players out of MADBULLS were in our top 5 of the MVP of the day, except they were 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Don't ask. No, we all have the same name in our minds, I think.
Yeah,
it goes without saying. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, let's see who the MVP is. It should be on 3, right? 1,
Effect.
2,
yes.
3.
Effect. Oh, you were doing the thing? I wasn't paying attention. There he is, way!
Oh,
I'm sad. 2,700 damage, 16 eliminations. And of course, almost 23 minutes survival time. I mean, when you get 3 chicken dinners out of your 4 matches, it's kind of expected.
This is just their standard. As I already stated, I think, on that Sanhok match, it doesn't feel forced. This is just their usual gameplay that's worked out, and I think you also mentioned it was Pokemolodoy as their coach, right? It seemed like this is the new type of normal gameplay they just do every single time. They found a method, they cracked the code, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And at this point, it is definitely not broke. They're just breaking the teams around them. So yeah, keep it up, MADBULLS. I mean, not only like CCT, the Erangel level threat, they're the whole package right now of what you could even contend to say that they are.
I mean, yeah, thing is we've watched them all day. I've said, you know, they are the full package, truly are. But focusing on effect just for a second here, kid is a prodigy. Like, watching him be this consistent, game in, game out, phase in, phase out, it is ridiculous that he's able to constantly put these numbers up in lobbies like this that have become exponentially more skilled from season to now this season. So yeah, ridiculous stuff from Effect.
And I just remember the championships of last year. Like, he was just beginning playing on the international stage, right, in CIS, then making it into the European Championship. And he had some good plays. I think we'll remember, like, he actually had a really good presence. Sure, not MVP contender type of presence, but that's what started his story. And now he's been able to improve so much until now he's just dominating an entire region on his lonesome. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do in a championship. Like, this man is a gold mine when it comes to getting picked up by MADBULLS. And as I said, I want to see them go into PMGC because I think they could actually represent the whole region of Europe as a whole there in a really good fashion.
Well, you know what, Max? You might get that opportunity to happen. You might get your wish as we still have PMGC right around the corner. But speaking of right around the corner, we're going to update you guys on what all happened today here and the results across the day. Now, don't be alarmed. It's not a mistake when you see this. Indeed, MADBULLS did get 3 chicken dinners on the day. First, third, and fourth. Ridiculous stuff out of this team, putting up such massive numbers. And honestly, I don't feel like we see this level of domination when it's come to PMPL in, I feel like, a very long time.
I think this is potentially one of the most consistent results over the course of an entire PMPL ever. Like, it's going to be hard to compare to other regions, but nothing comes to mind to see a team dominate a region this hard. I don't know if you have any, Colossus. I don't. Like, this is out there.
No, yeah, it's difficult to think of. Interesting 1 damage difference between both Erangels. Almost exactly the same in terms of a performance coming in from them. They are just, yeah, they're an anomaly, but they're a hell of a fun anomaly to watch.
That's consistency right there, right? Having 1 point of difference of damage across the same map twice. Well, you know what? You guys at home, you might be watching and being like, you know what? I could probably take MADBULLS. I could take these teams. I can make these analysts shut up and talk about me. Well, you know what? You have your chance. PMCO signups have begun. Make sure to head into the client. You guys can sign up as well and make sure you guys try to participate and try to potentially be here in the future because we'd love to do that. We'd love to, you know, I would love to get a message from someone a season or 2 from now in PMPL from a player saying, you know what, I heard you make a call out. I heard those words about, you know, saying that we can beat MADBULLS or we have the potential to, and I did it. I want to see that happen one day, and if it does, Max Penn will indeed finally.
Why is it always mine?
His eyebrow.
Okay.
Max, did you like that Instagram post yet, or?
I actually just put an Instagram page up and actually liked it just for the meme. Yeah, actually. I just pulled it up when I saw the post. I'm like, that's not my like right there.
I feel like we know each other too well at this point, you know? I think we've done too many shows together as a trio.
It was a good post, man. I'm gonna like it. Yes.
So easy, Max. But we love it. We love that you're a human punching bag for us, to be honest. Okay, let's take a look at overall standings. There were so many things I could have said there about your brain. I just didn't want to touch it. Overall standings, MADBULLS should be first place by far, and yes, they will still maintain that position. 50-point lead practically out of this team over everyone else. How does any team even come close to that?
That is eye-opening once again from MADBULLS. Even though they've opened our eyes many times over the last couple of phases, we then see yet another insane performance out of them. I think, though, at the same time, there's other things that open our eyes on these leaderboards. MUERTE disaster, I think, is fair to say for today. A real sharp fall as the other teams around them just had a brilliant day as well.
Yeah, and TJB being able to prove us that they can indeed remain consistent, build that momentum after the first 3 days of this phase. So definitely some good changes. Unfortunately, as you said, some bad changes like MUERTE, 4 points on the day. A little bit rough for them at the end. But yeah, I mean, not too many big surprises when you're seeing your VP, your Navis, and your MADBULLS at the top of the leaderboards. These are, in fact, the real big 3. Kalaris, okay, for the entire event, I would clearly have to say. So yeah, it's hard to contest with their spot currently, and the finals just around the corner. It's going to be wild for sure.
It's actually insane if you look at this, right? Look at VIRTUS.PRO. Place of points 116, a limbs 58. That is kind of surprising because we know how hard hitting the players can be on VP side, and yet to over double your limbs in terms of placements. I don't even
yeah,
know how you
we normally don't see those kinds of ratios come out in terms of overall point gain in a certain phase. So VIRTUS.PRO is blasting. If they had a few more placement points here and there, they'd definitely be at least second. Maybe.
At least second. Yeah, the first place just out of the question. But also they got Corker in playing today, right? I think I think this is the first day that Corker's actually been playing. They replaced Mir. It's an interesting change for the team. I think that Corker has definitely made a big impression today when it came to his first days actually playing in his PMPL. So I'd like to see a little bit more of Corker. I think he brought some good stuff to the table for the team.
All right, well, making sure you guys can hear me as we had 121 elims for MADBULLS, almost more than our 8th place team had total in points. Looking down the list, though, I mean, they have more elims than 10th through 20 has in total points. That's a real testament to how strong MADBULLS have been, but also looking at Unicorns 11th, 12th place, NEXUS game able to rise up to 14th. You know, we're seeing some step-ups out of EU, but just
right. And our eyes, as the days go on, will navigate towards the, firstly, who gets top 12 to be able to move on to the Livic, but secondly, and all importantly, what our top 16 will look like, because there's only 2 days left, Jason, and there are some teams languishing in those 17 through 20 spots, not just for this table, but the overalls across all phases that, you know, might have a bit of a rough time, and we'll need to do something in these next 2 days.
Yeah, well, luckily for them, they still have at least 2 days to go here, but it is very short time for us as teams to step up here, and as well as to potentially secure the spot into the finals, where they have to go even beyond that to improve themselves if they want to make it into the EU regionals. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to end off our day here. We have 2 days left in total in our third and final phase, and we'll be getting straight into the finals. So see you guys tomorrow for some more PUBG Mobile action.
we just say goodbye?